A court of fairies and fiction. Akafath Girls Podcast. Hosts Mel and Liv. Episode 7, Familiar Faces and Hidden Identities. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. So I know we said there might be a few more videos on the Lauren theory, but I went through the notes and I think we pretty much got all the main points. Some of them we were just kind of beating a dead horse, like just so we could just kept saying them and saying them and infusing all of them in there. But I'm sure they will circle back to more theories. I do have more notes for everybody, and I wanted to tap into some of the theories that I had about Crescent City and ACOTAR in general. Yeah, I did like a 7-page paper today on this.
I'm so excited for this because, I mean, like 7 pages, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. My brain hurt.
I'm so excited.
Going back and forth.
I feel like SJM needs to hire you as like one of her editors because you know so much. Like, I hope she's listening right now because like Mel, you need the job. Let's be real.
I would love the job. I'd be like, no, this you have to correlate with this, and this doesn't exactly correlate with this, and why is this like this? Is there a reason for it?
Yeah.
Like I was completely convinced that the Harpy was the mercenary until Hunt said that she had blonde hair. Then I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
All of it was adding up. And especially how they were like all the weapons on her and all that stuff, and how like her attitude and everything was just like the mercenary in ACOTAR. And then no. I mean, she could have changed her appearance, I guess, but
yeah, I was not convinced it was the Harpy because that mercenary is a little she's too nice for the Harpy. The Harpy does not deal with humans and she just wants to kill them. So I liked the idea though. Like I thought that would have been really cool. The only person that I think it maybe could be is maybe Fury, possibly. Like I could see that because Fury carries a lot of weapons on her, has dark hair.
well, yeah. I reread both just because I wanted to compare them, and that's when I was like, oh, she has blonde hair, but the mercenary also had like very like tan skin, like the Illyrians.
Oh.
So I was like,
Interesting. Very
so
interesting.
then I started to think that maybe I have so many theories for Reese's mom, but I was like, is that Reese's mom? Maybe.
I don't think it.
I don't know. She could be anywhere. She could be dead. She could be alive. She could be anywhere.
She could be. She could be because like I think she was a seer for sure. Yeah. And I think as time goes on.
I wrote something in this about her.
Okay.
Another theory about her.
I want you to start on your theories so that we can hear it. I don't want to ruin it or jump too quickly.
Okay. So let's start. I did most of this in order as much as I could. My brain is very chaotic.
That's okay. So
I kept going from like quotes to quotes, from book to book on the Kindle app, copying, pasting, all this stuff. And then I would find something else that I wanted to write down, and I would go write that down. And then I had to make sure everything was like in the right category.
I love it. No, I love it.
So let's start with this. One of my theories is that the now dead King of Hybern is the Underking in Crescent City that rules the Bone Quarter, the island of the dead. I don't know whether he spelled / glamored / whatevered himself in Prythian just to look normal, because that's always a possibility. I'm gonna read a quote. There's a lot of quotes here, so I'm just gonna rattle one off.
I love it. Let's hear the quotes.
So basically, we know that the King of Hybern was an expert spellmaster, and he had the book that was responsible for stripping the High Lords of their power under the mountain, because that's the one that Amarantha stole, as well as having this stone, the stone shackles and the stone whatever that Lucian's...
For Lucian.
can't talk today, that Ianthe used on Lucian to strip his power. So I said Hybern could have easily put a spell on himself or glamored himself to look normal or alive. If not, or regardless, when he was killed with Truth Teller, he might have just simply been sent back to his realm.
Okay.
Like the soul or whatever. And just like kind of regenerated there.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like it's not outside FJM's realm to like just because Amryn stripped her body. Why couldn't he strip his body after he was killed and be like, going back to my realm, gonna regenerate, you know?
Oh, totally. Totally.
We don't know his motive for coming to Prythian, if it was him, but we can assume that he was working for the Asteri or he was related to the Asteri, since he has black eyes like them.
Okay. Okay.
So did Amarantha,
She did.
which
That's
was
right.
another little thing, but we went over her already. And as we know from Amryn's own containment spell in a body, the only part of the spell that they couldn't get right for her were the eyes.
I
Right?
like it. I like it.
So I'm going to jump into this. So, Crescent City, one of the quotes is the Underking materialized from the mist inch by inch, robes of the richest black velvet, darkness swirled on the ground before him. And then in ACOTAR, we have the King of Hybern stepped into the clearing, dark power wafting from his fingertips. And Nesta looked at him with death twining around his hands. So that's a lot of dark power going on.
And the
We
death
have,
twine around his hands is interesting.
yeah. And then we have in Crescent City, Hunt looks at him and he says, a desiccated corpse, half rotted and crowned with golden jewels, like some long dead king of old left to rot in some barrow, who had emerged to make himself master of this land. Does that not sound like what Hybern did to Prythian? He just kind of
Interesting.
showed up, overran an island, and made himself king.
The king.
And then in ACOTAR, he's described as looks like a male in his 40s, shoulder-length black hair, ruddy skin, fine clothing, but with depthless, hateful black eyes. Oh, you know,
Yeah.
Nesta did behead him pretty well.
She did. That she did.
In Crescent City, the Underking says, I hail from a place between stars, a place that has no name and never shall, but I know of the void that the princes of hell worship, and it birthed me too. In ACOTAR, the King of Hybern, it says, the king raised his hand, power whirling like a dark galaxy in his palm.
Go back to read the quote you just read before that again.
I hail from a place between stars, a place that has no name and never shall, but I know of the void that the princes of hell worship, and it birthed me too.
Interesting.
I'm thinking the void is the cauldron.
That's literally what I was just gonna say.
I think that the princes of hell, like Adis and Thea, used the cauldron to make their creatures, their demons, and all of this. I get into that later too, of course.
I love
The King of Hybern says, life is a beautiful ring of growth and decay, which I thought was interesting because I always brought that up in terms of like Eris and Nesta.
You do. And the Autumn Court.
And everything.
You talk about that a lot.
And the King of Hybern also looks at Nesta and he's like, magnificent, untrained, but magnificent. So yeah. I'm like, death, Underking, death.
Reigns. Interesting. Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And my other theory for him, or not theory, but it kind of goes along with this. He's talking to Bryce and he basically says that her living magic is first light, and he calls it raw, nutritious first light. And then he says, or second light, as it is called when it comes from the dead. In ACOTAR,
second light.
During the war, he gives amethyst light power to his commanders, which was actually or to a commander that we know of. We can assume he gave them to the others, but there's one in particular who goes up against Helion, which I think we talked about head
We
to
did talk
head,
about that.
and almost killed Helion. Almost
Yeah.
got one up on him. So my thought is that if Hybern was the Underking, he was basically transferring all of the people who had died's energy, eating it, and then giving it back to his commanders, like he said, growth and decay, and then you
Yeah.
just turn it back into energy, which is what they
Okay.
do in Crescent City. They put it in the Dead Gate to power the whole city.
Yes.
So instead,
Yeah.
it was powering his forces, which is why they were losing so bad.
Interesting. I
Um,
have never thought of that before. I'm like,
Also, when Feyre and Elaine and Azriel, etc., are trying to escape, I believe it was that scene. It says
Mhm.
the king fired again, the arrow tipped with the glimmering amethyst power. Azriel's shield barely held. So like it was that close to piercing his shield.
as you're making me nervous.
I know. But you have
I
to
mean,
think like the only power he would have had from the dead at that point would have been the children of the blessed. And if they were human, it wouldn't have given him that much power. If he had killed, say, Elaine or a Fae there, or Tamlin, God forbid, he would have been able to blast through Azrael's shield with it.
oh, absolutely.
Because it depends on like how much energy, life force, magic, whatever that you have. That's why he wanted to feast on Bryce's. So that
Love it.
was my Underking thing. What do you think? Do you think it's probable?
Right. See, I don't know. I don't know because
It's like the dark swirling thing, and like, I don't know. It just, when I read it,
I'm
I was like, this reminds me of Hybern. And the
it's
fact
so
that neither of them have names, they're just Underking, King of Hybern.
I do find that interesting. I was going to bring that up because I think that all the people that don't have names are the ones we're going to come back and find out. Like
Mm-hmm.
Lady A, we don't have a name for her. Like King of Hybern, we don't have a name. Like there's a bunch of who else doesn't have a name?
Tamlin
Are
doesn't
those
have a last name.
Tamlin and Reese doesn't have a last name either.
Gwen's mom doesn't have a name, who she
We all
was.
have yeah, yeah.
None of the parents, none of the brothers.
None of the brothers have names. But there was it was King of Hybern, the Under King,
Mm-hmm.
Lady A. There's someone else that doesn't have a name though. The Viper Queen.
Oh, the Viper Queen.
We don't know who the Viper Queen really truly is.
No, but I showed you that screenshot earlier where SJM used the same language where it says her lipstick was so purple it was black.
Yes.
I was like, what?
I loved it. So here's my thing that I found really interesting about your theory because like when I heard it initially, I was like, Hybern, what is she talking? What is she talking about? No way. There's no way. And then I started to think about it, but that there's one quote, and it's the one where they're talking about him being birthed from the cauldron and the princes of hell worship the cauldron. And to me, I'm like, hold up there just a minute.
Hmm.
That's a little interesting.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
the princes of hell worship a cauldron and he was born from that cauldron? Possibly. I think it's a
Again, they
possibility.
just call it the Cauldron.
The
It is
cauldron.
nameless.
The
Kind of.
cauldron.
A
The
place
void.
between stars.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if Sarah left out Elaine and Nesta talking about inside the cauldron because they were actually like floating between worlds,
I could see it. Or
between
so do you think they
stars,
were like world walking or just like they were like seeing
like
other
floating,
worlds?
like how the mystics do.
Oh, oh, wasn't that such a creepy scene when you read it? Like I
Oh,
could just
I
vision it.
have stuff. Anyway, moving on.
Okay, go on.
Um, I also want to talk about the hellhounds or the beasts that attacked Bryce and Hunt.
Yes. Ooh, I like
There. Yeah, very interesting. So it says, I'm gonna go back and forth on this because I have quite a lot on this one. So Crescent City, the dog's fur, sleek and iridescent enough that it almost resembled scales, flowed over bulky, bunched muscle, claws like razor blades sliced into the dry ground. Um, that's a demon, Hunt ground out. He'd fought enough of them to know, an experiment of the Prince of the Ravines from the First Wars, the Under King rasped. The shepherd halted, eyeing them. Then the hound peeled apart, first its head split, two other heads joining the first, and then the three-headed dog continued to separate until three hounds snarled at them, three beasts that shared one mind and one goal, to kill. So that first line with the black fur or the sleek fur and the scales.
Yeah.
So then in ACOTAR, the Hewn City sculptures.
Yeah. Yes.
Great scaled black beasts were carved into those gates. Gates?
Yes.
All
Yep.
coiled together in a nest of claws and fangs, sleeping and fighting, some locked in an endless cycle of devouring each other. Between them flowed vines of jasmine and moonflowers. I could have sworn the beasts seemed to writhe in the silvery glow of the bobbing phthalites throughout the mountain city. And then she was talking about Rhea's throne, and it says that mighty throne of those twined, scaly beasts. And then the council chamber of the hewn city was nearly as large as the throne room. It was carved from the same dark rock, its pillars fashioned after those entangled beasts. Like, hewn city is definitely the ravine layer of hell at this
Yes,
point.
it is. Yes, it is. Totally
And
agree.
then go back to Feyre and all of them escaping with Elaine. A piercing howl split the dying night, and I knew they'd realized what we'd done, that we were here, and even if they couldn't see us, the king of Hybern's hounds could scent us. The nearest hound, it was not a hound, I realized, as the arrow spiraled for its head, but some monstrous, scaled thing that thundered on all fours, serpentine face snarling and full of bone-shredding white teeth.
Wait, that the King of Hybrid had that?
The Hybern beasts
So wait a second.
and the Underking beasts, I think they're the same hell beasts.
They are. They are. They absolutely are. But here's my thing. Why does Hewn City and King Hybrid have it? So,
Well, because yeah, I get into that too, but because
oh, you do. Okay.
Thanatos is in Hewn City, Thanatos is a prince of hell. And so here's the connection here. Thanatos is a prince of hell, right?
Okay.
Hybern is technically not good, but well, kind of evil, I guess. He's
Yeah.
like a king of the dead, I guess. So he would technically send souls to hell, maybe. Whatever. He does mention that yeah, he does mention an experiment of the Prince of the Ravines from the First Wars. So like they probably, I don't know, they probably made a deal for it or something. And it just
Like,
reminds me of Eris with Kier, and it makes me very uneasy. Yeah.
we're not gonna talk about Eris tonight
Yeah,
because
no,
you
we're
and I
not.
talk about him
Well,
for 2 hours.
we are a little bit. He comes into it a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. I did find it interesting though that if those hounds were under Hybern's direction that they didn't split. But I don't think they weren't really hit with an arrow or anything. Tamlin was just fighting them. But the fact that Tamlin could take on a dozen of them and only like two slipped through.
I know.
My man.
But Tamlin.
My
Okay.
man.
First of all, and that goes to tell you because Bryce and Hunt struggled with like the two or the three that they were fighting, and Tamlin took on a dozen of them. And we also need to talk about her interview later when we have time.
Yes, we will.
Super upset about that. But go on.
Okay, so now we have like a Thanatos thing, but really quick, there was just like a little tiny note that I wanted to kind of go over that kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Bryce asks, do you think there is actually a resting place for our souls? If we died and really didn't go to those places, what would happen? Like hell and heaven, the sleeping city. And Hunt answered ghosts, jokingly. But I think he was right. I think the souls that the Underking doesn't send anywhere, whether it's for retribution or to feed on them or whatever, I
Right.
think they're the Starfall souls that cross
You
through.
do? Really?
They're the souls in limbo that aren't assigned to a place. They're just
What makes you think that?
because they're like Reese and Farah are always talking about like how they must be little souls and that there must be a reason they're like slapping into our face. And I find it funny that they hit Reese and Farah, who Bryce meets first, pretty much, lands in the night court, right?
So what? So do you think that they
I think the souls are
know?
like, help us.
Like,
But
I
there's
love
also
that.
the Will-O-Wisps in spring trying to get Tamlin's attention, giving him a private concert. And why do they favor Tamlin?
Yeah.
Because it says like they favor Tamlin. Hmm.
Gosh.
So yeah, I thought that was different. That was different.
Do you know what's so interesting is I actually think I was reading something online that in Tog talks about. Did you read that
I
already?
didn't.
Did you write that down on your papers?
Tog? No, I don't have
Do you,
anything about Tog in here.
so I haven't I've only read the first book. I'm gonna start the second one after I finish this year, but apparently there are some I'm not gonna tell you who, but there are some souls or people that die and become souls. And Reese and Feyre call it out. And it's the exact number of people that died. So
Uh,
basically, which I
is that
find
like are
interesting.
those
So
is that the 13? Is that the witches?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Did you hear that?
Well, I actually like that theory because then it debunks the one that people are saying Briar is the same Briar.
I do agree with that. I do agree.
So,
So
I
here's
mean,
my
it
thing
could
though.
be, but
If yeah, I
anything's
mean,
possible.
but I've been thinking about your Briar theory a lot lately. A lot. And I like it. But I do think it's true that like, you have to like be mated to or married to your equal. So Briar, I wouldn't hate it if it was that Briar, if she was a witch.
Yeah, I
Like
wouldn't hate it
like
either.
I wouldn't hate it, but I'm curious. So anyways, go on. I want to hear about your theories.
But anyways, before we get into everything with actually no, I'm gonna start off with that. So never mind. Um Thanatos,
Yes.
it all comes full circle. They were talking about the beasts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they go to the astronomers,
Yes. So creepy. He's so
who
creepy.
I will also talk about in a little bit.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Also, sorry, to go back to
Yeah.
Hybern, you said he opened his hand, he had like a dark galaxy of power. Could the King of Hybern and the astronomer possibly be the same person?
Possibly. I was actually going back and forth. I didn't know if the astronomer was Hybern or Koshi,
Yeah.
but I landed on Koshi and I explain
Okay.
why later.
Okay.
Um Thanatos frowned at his knee-high boots like he could see all the way down to the pit levels below. Um and then he tells Ethan, "Your brother's soul is not in hell. He is dot dot dot." His attention then snapped to Bryce. Ripped away skin and bone to the being beneath. "You slew one of my creations. My beloved pet kept for so long on your side of the crossing." So it's the same Thanatos that's in Hewn City. Thanatos' eyes flared. "You cost me a key link to Midgard. The shepherd reported faithfully to me on all it heard in the Bone Quarter. The souls of the dead talk freely of their world." So either he gave his beasts to the Underking
Yes.
to report back what the dead is talking about. Are talking about.
Yes. Yes.
That's the bargain there. That's the deal there.
Holy shit. Holy shit. So Thanatos literally is living in
In
Human City.
fucking Hewn City, and he's only mentioned once. Why
And
why does he let Kier lead? Like, does he just not want to lead? Is he just busy like tracking Midgard
that's what
and
I'm
like
trying to
seeing like trying to form the rebellion like among the Illyrians?
I
Maybe?
don't know.
I don't
I don't
know.
know.
I don't know.
But it's interesting, like, why doesn't he leave? Why doesn't he come out of Human City and into Prithian?
Why does any of the princes of the hell stay where they are? Adis is like, "Oh, we're good. We're good. We're good."
Melanie, there's literally stop. I'm like freaking the fuck out right now. Okay. There's literally two princes of hell that are in Prithian. Do you
In
realize that?
Prithian. Yeah. Maybe three.
Yes. Reese has to be a prince of hell.
I said he was Apollyon, the
He's got
Star
he has
Eater. Feyre
or
constantly saying that there's actual stars in his eyes.
in his eyes.
In his eyes. I I will actually post my I don't know if you've seen it. I did post it to my YouTube, the whole
No,
theory of me thinking he's Apollyon and
no.
why.
I know talked about
I'll post it as like a special episode in a couple days
yeah.
before I post this, but yeah, there's a lot actually. There's a lot.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just
Lot.
if it turns out that we're right, because I had this thought, we've been talking about this though
Yeah.
for like 6 months, and I like
Mhm.
forgot about it and was like, no, he's a god. I was like, he's a god.
Yeah.
If he's truly a prince of hell, people are gonna freak out. And also, though, that would mean that he's lying about his age and he's not actually like 500 years old.
Okay, so Bryce is in everything, right? Like an elemental, a shifter, like all of that, right?
Yeah.
Who else is?
Who?
Feyre. Feyre has all the powers of all the elements, right?
Right.
And who has a very convenient death pact with her?
Reese? What are you trying to say? Tell me right now.
So if Feyre finds out that he's a prince of hell and he's actually evil, nobody can kill him because they would have to kill her. If they kill him, she dies. Remember?
Oh my God.
So that was one of my points.
What?
Yeah. And then I had another point about so like the tattoos were like a bargain, right?
Right.
And then Hybern got rid of the bargain. Sneaky, sneaky. Got rid of the bargain. Reese was pissed. Or
Oh wait.
insane. I'm gonna repeat what I said real quick because I forgot we weren't recording.
Yes. Please repeat it because I have like multiple thoughts going on right now.
Okay, so like the Hewn City and then Moonstone Palace is above Hewn City. If Hewn City is a layer of hell and Moonstone Palace is where Reese is supposed to rule over the Night Court, it reminds me of like the Devil's Throne because he sits on a very high throne above all of hell, like watching over all the subjects and everything. And I was like, oh, throne in the sky. More King of Hell shit.
But here's my thing. Why is Reese never at the Moonstone Palace?
Right?
Don't you like wonder that? He's like never.
I well, he is kind of like also the king of like masks. Like he's really good at shit. I actually went through my Apollyon video and I actually wrote it all down so I can just say it in this video.
Let's do it.
But yeah, I was just like, oh my God. That like clicked in my head. I was like, they say it like twice, like that's where he's supposed to rule from. And I'm like, supposed to rule
They said that in ACOTAR that Reese is supposed to
from?
rule
Akamath. Yeah.
From the Moonstone Palace.
But yeah,
So
and when they go to Hewn City, I forget whether it was Akamath or Akawar, they're also like, oh well, like you never reside up there anyway. Oh, it's when they're discussing like him going to Valaris or whatever. And they're like, we always wondered why you were never actually up there.
who who said that?
Kier. Because they didn't know about Valaris, remember? And they're like, that explains what like where the fuck you were when you're never here.
I'm like, dude, this is so clear to me. So, okay, Rhys has to be
Yeah.
the right,
He has
the
to be
king,
the king of hell. He has to be Apollyon.
the king of
I
hell.
think Apollyon is like Satan, like the devil, like he's the worst one, right? That's
Yeah,
usually how it is. There's like him and then there's like a ranking. But really quick, like I forgot two little things when we were
yeah.
talking about the Highburn beasts, and then we'll go into that.
Okay.
When Helion's talking about how he saved Lady Autumn in the Autumn Court, he says she ran, but Hyburn's beasts were still faster and stronger. They cornered her at a ravine where she became trapped atop a ledge, the beast snapping at her feet. And then Elaine, when they were escaping Hybern, Elaine slammed her bare muddy foot into the beast's face again. The blow struck home. With a yelp of pain, it released its claws and plunged into the ravine below. And then we have Feyre. I looked behind to see that Naga hound snap at where my heels had been and then plunge down, down, down into the ravine and river below. Like, can't make this up. And then it's ravine is said another 7 times in regards to like the blood right and Ramiel and all that stuff. I thought that was interesting.
Wait, is the ravine? What are the layers? Is the ravine the worst or
No,
not?
the pit is the worst, which is Apollyon's.
The pit.
There's the pit, the ravine. Let me look. Layers of Hell Crescent City. I forget what Adis's is.
I can't. You know what? Let me look and see if I can find it too.
Crescent City. Here it is. Okay. So the hollow, the trench, the canyon, the ravine. 5th level is the chasm. That's Adis's. 6th
Yeah.
level is the abyss, and the 7th level is the pit. So wait, is Adis Adis is the chasm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So also another thing that I was thinking about that I found interesting was that whenever they're talking, they're summoning with the salt or whatever that means,
Mhm.
and it gets really cold. And like maybe I'm just being overzealous here, but like Rhys and Valeris,
I
it's
was
like
gonna
sorry.
okay. I have so many notes. Like I got it.
Okay, let's do your notes then.
So I'm gonna go over real quick the a breakdown of the video that I did about Rhys actually possibly being Apollyon.
Okay, this
And
is
I
let
think
me.
I might shock you with a couple of the points, but we'll see. We'll see if you
I know
thought
we
of them.
talked about his smug arrogance, which sounds
Yeah,
an
there's
awful
that one.
like Rhys. But go ahead.
So when he appears to Bryson Hunt, he reaches out through a mind bridge and mentions how obviously he's not like there, like he's in the other side of the crossing or the rift, or whatever. So that would be Prythian, basically, as we know. Rhys owns the pit because the pit is the library. They call it the pit. Rhys calls it the pit. Because he says, I don't know what Cassian saw in the pit.
Wait, but in the pit's the worst one?
Yeah. Apollyon rules over the pit. He's the prince of the pit. And when yeah. Yeah. There's that. So did going back to Cassian and the Bone Carver, did he see Rhys with black eyes?
Well, not even necessarily that. Did he see Rhys as in his true form? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't with black eyes. Maybe he saw like
Or the
his
golden whatever, like Lanthus. Remember
crown.
how we thought he might have been Lanthus, but then that didn't pan out?
Oh my gosh.
It's yeah, it's amazing. So, talking about the pit and how it's the library, right?
Yeah.
Before Bryce could respond, this is the astronomer's thing. Before Bryce could respond, the floor below slid away, leaving the mystics in their tubs and creating a considerable gap between the base of the ramp and the entryway. The tubs rested atop narrow columns rising from a sublevel, lined with more books and another walkway descending down, down, down to a black pit in the center of the floor. Filling the sublevel, layer after layer of darkness revealed itself, each one blacker than the last, 7 of them, one for each level of hell, from the highest stars to the pit itself.
Yes, it's a library. It's the
The library is part of hell.
yes.
So, back to my freaking notes on my phone because I have them everywhere now. I said, did Cassian see the Mystics tubs? Is that what he was terrified of? And is that what Bryaxis was guarding?
The Mystics tubs?
Because it said, like, it rose up from the pit of the library. The layers, they were resting on the columns in the pit. Right?
But why? But I mean, like, it's super creepy. It's super creepy. Like, I'll tell you something. If I saw 3 people in a fucking like vault or whatever,
Bathtub with just masks, like bony and dying and saggy. Ugh.
blood salt in it and salt and
I
Joe.
have a whole thing about blood salt.
I would freak out, but I feel like Cassian would not be phased by that. You know what I mean? I feel like he's seen a lot of shit, right?
Well, like with the way his mother was treated.
Like maybe that's what spooked him.
Because according to Rhys, he was little when he like told him, "Hey, go down to the pit and see what's there." Fucking
Shit.
little devil, little shit.
But
but
I
that
like
leads me to Rhys's childhood. And how can he be Apollyon if he had parents and a sister and a childhood and all of this?
valid
Did they
question.
exist? Apollyon says, "Do you not know where I came from? My father was the void, and chaos was his bride." So, if the cauldron was his father, which I feel like it was always just Rhys. Because he mentions how he didn't like how his father, like, didn't change the laws on Illyria or whatever, and that's why he hated him, but, like, he's not changing the laws in Illyria either. And I think that's for a purpose. I have another point here. But, basically the whole, like, childhood thing, everything he's said about, like, his family and his history and, like, when he was young and all of this, remember he, like, tells everybody during the High Lords meeting, like, all the High Lords, he says, "If I wanted to make all of you and your armies fight for me, I would." So he could control all the High Lords, all of their armies with his head if he wanted to, not to mention misting. So who's to say he didn't just implant his backstory into people's heads?
I
Who's to
mean,
say that him and Tamlin were ever friends? Or who's to say that, he had a sister or he had a mother?
holy, holy, but if she did this,
Like, cause that goes back to what he tells Feyre in Akamath when she's looking at Azriel and what he did to the Adder in Rhys's memories, and he closes the door on her. And he says, an experienced Daemati can trap you in their mind and make you their puppet. You would be none the wiser.
I remember this because we have talked about
Very
this like
specific.
consciously.
Very fucking specific. So, like, he could, as I was telling you, like, he could have just twisted reality to make her believe he let her out. Like, who's to say he's not already doing it to Prithian? Because remember, when you asked me, like, what is Prithian then? Prithian is hell, and he's just glamoring it with, like, a cherry on top. Like,
But okay, so I thought about that because I was like, I'm trying to figure out the world thing.
yeah.
And I have two thoughts. Is Prithian hell and he's glamoring it, but then that doesn't account for the Archeron sisters, it doesn't account for the humans, it doesn't account for any of that. Or did Rhys not
Make
like
it hell.
hell and he decided to leave?
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's why he's so weird about the High King stuff. And he's like, I just want to be here with my mate because I don't know. I don't know.
So I was talking to Miriam the other day, and she was
I,
going over I forget
I,
I forget what specific lore it was. Crap. I don't think it was Norse, but we were going over specific lore. And so basically there's three like base planets or whatever, and it's Midgard, Asgard, and Helheim. So
okay,
there's
wait.
Midgard, so Asgard must be the Tog world, and Helheim would be the Prithian planet, which would technically make it Hell and not Hell with two L's. So again, Sarah J. Maas and her play on words.
Wait. Go back. So what do you mean hell with one L versus hell versus with two? Like, what do you mean by
Yeah.
that?
I mean, she could just be talking like like literally instead of
Yeah.
figuratively. Like maybe that's like the name of the planet.
Oh, I see.
The planet,
The
you know,
planet name is like Helheim or what?
Helheim. Yeah.
Not hell, as
That's why
in
when
people.
Bryce said, "Take me to hell,"
And we're all like, we all associate hell with like
hell,
evil.
hell, hell, even though parts of hell is in hell, hell.
Okay, wait a second. So if that's the case and it's hell the world and not
Yeah.
hell,
Hmm.
so then Rhys wouldn't necessarily, he's not evil.
Well,
That
unless they just like, I'm thinking it's like a sub level, like like I'm trying to figure out how to put this.
it's
But
hard to explain.
like hell is hell, obviously. But then if there was like a small faction off of it,
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
way, if that makes sense.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I
Because I read Dante's Inferno in high school. I don't remember that much
was
about it.
gonna say.
I don't remember that much about it, but I know there's a layer that burns you, a layer that freezes you, a layer that you're constantly stung by bees, like weird shit. So, wouldn't it be funny if Helheim the planet was a layer of hell, but it's just people like living in ignorance, like thinking they're alive. Like I said, kind of like limbo
Limbo. But
ish.
okay,
I
so in the
don't know.
mythology, no, but I could see that.
Yeah.
But if she did that, I'm gonna tell you something that's really fucked up because that's
That's really fucked up.
that. Well, I mean, that's gonna like mess with people. Like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like all these people are living in ignorance right now. Like, blah blah blah. Um, in the mythology, what happens to that planet called Hell? No,
Fuck
okay,
if I know. We're gonna have to look that up after.
we need to look it
But
up.
back to Reese being Apollyon, because we got off track again.
Okay,
So
go
he
ahead.
says, my father was the void, so cauldron, right? My mother
Right.
was chaos. So say somebody like Thea created him from the void, right? Because Thea was with Adis, even though Adis
Okay,
would technically be his brother. Would they be considered children or brothers? I don't know.
I know.
Mythology's weird like that. They're fathers and brothers at the same time. Shit like that. Like, again, how Cormac is like, they all just intermingled everywhere.
Yeah.
So, like, there's that. But I just put, if his mother was chaos, wouldn't it track that she would make his mate go through a death trap to get the ring that's tied to her soul?
Wait, but then, yeah. Oh my God.
I had a theory, which is in my other page of notes, but I had a theory that maybe his mother was like did get out with Lauren, right? Got captured by the astronomer for her mystic gifts. And maybe she saw what was going to happen, so she tied her soul to the ring. And then she was one of the previous people in the tub that he said like, oh, she went way too far that we lost them all, right? And if
Yes.
it's a six-pointed star and it can summon spirits, I'll always be with you. I don't know.
Okay, I love that. I love that. And also, I just had a thought and now I can't remember it. Okay, I do
Yeah.
want to say, remember when we were talking about, because I was just reading this, the astronomer, we were like, he could be Koshi and he could be King Hybrid. He can't be because his eyes are gray. Did you read that too?
The astronomers?
Yeah, his eyes are gray.
He could still be Koshi. It doesn't mention Koshi's eyes.
We don't know his eyes yet, do we?
Mm-mm.
But it was interesting because he was terrified of Thanatos. Terrified of him.
Nope, I have that note in there too. I will pull it up right now. I'll pull it up
Okay.
right now. I know we're not going in order, but it's fine.
Sorry,
At this
sorry.
point. It's fine.
No, go in order. Go back.
No, so really quick, just because you like brought that up already. So, um, I was talking about this is about like Koshi as the astronomer, but I'll
Right.
touch on this as the first point. It says, when have you gotten to the fire sprites when they freed them from his rings?
Yeah. And
Okay.
yes.
So it says, we were bespelled by the astronomer, Sasa whispered. He's an ancient sorcerer. Kind of sounds like an ancient spellmaster, like Hybern, but you know. Or Koshi,
Or
who's
Koshi.
also literally called an ancient sorcerer. Don't
Ancient
let him
sorcerer.
deceive you with that feeble act. He bought us all and shoved us into those rings to light the way when he descends into hell. Boom!
Wait. He's when he descends into hell?
He knows Thanatos. He fucking knows Thanatos. That
So he's
fucking act. That fucking liar. Ugh. Don't
yeah,
believe that feeble act. He bought us all and shoved us into those rings to light his way when he descends into hell.
holy shit.
Ba-boom. I saw that. I was like, this is a good sentence. He's a fucking liar who, again, with the masks and the princes of hell and Rhys, going back to Rhys again. So Apollyon visits Hunt, and when he's leaving, he says, the seething darkness and those leathery wings vanished. About Apollyon. When Rhys gets mad, his eyes get stormy, darkness takes over, and the room gets cold. When Apollyon comes to Bryce, he reaches out and touches her, and she says that he's icy cold. Also, if he can keep a whole city glamored and warded, he could probably keep his body that way too. And if he can go into everyone's minds, like I said, or a mix of both. Because nobody knew about Valaris, and again, I'm jumping, but nobody knew about Valaris, and it was spelled with his ancestors' blood, right? Blood salt.
Yep.
Is that where there's I'll get into that later, but yeah, blood salt, and there's like red stone and stuff that I'm gonna bring up, but yeah. When Bryce sees Rhys and company or whatever, specifically when Rhys comes into the room, she notes that he has leathery wings, like the rest of them, but you know. And then I just said how like Amren seemed kind of shocked when she was asking about hell. I mean, she could be putting on an act as well. She could be lying. If Rhys is Apollyon and he made a bargain with the seventh Asteri and didn't actually eat her and she's Amren, I would love that.
I would love that too. But I find it interesting she's acting shocked and says that she doesn't know the names of
I
any
don't
of
know those people.
Yeah.
Well, because Rhys doesn't call himself Rhys. We don't know Rhys's last name. Maybe because he doesn't have a last name.
Or would it be like Apollyon is his last name?
Yeah.
Like
Prince
Rhys
of the Pit. Like, who knows? But yeah, that was a little note I put in there. When Bryce leaves, she says she needs to make it to Adis, Thanatos, and Apollyon. We know where Thanatos is. We know where Adis is. Who's Apollyon then?
Apollyon.
Has to be Reese. It has to be Reese. If it's not Reese, and if it turns out to be like fucking Kier or some shit, like that would be interesting too, because then like Moore is a princess of hell, which we kind of already knew anyway. But come on. Reese didn't react to Bryce being in his living room and yelling in another language. I actually just took a screenshot of this scene because I needed to read it to you guys because I thought it was very interesting. The winged dark-haired male who stepped in behind her, Feyre. Bryce gasped, "Rune." The male blinked. His eyes were the same shade of violet blue as Rune's, his short hair the same gleaming black. This male's skin was browner, but the face and the posture, it was her brother's. His ears were pointed too, though he also possessed those leathery wings like the other two males. And then Feyre asks a question, and then she says, the male continued to stare at Bryce, at the blood on her, at the star sword and the knife, the blades still gleaming with their opposite lights. He lifted his gaze to hers, stars in his eyes. Actual stars. And then, Amren's like, she wants to know what your name is. And she says, my name's Bryce Quinlan. It says, the male stepped forward, tucking in his wings. He smiled slightly and said in the old language, in a voice like glorious night, hello, Bryce Quinlan. My name is Rhysand. Was he staring at her because he helped bring her there? Like, why was he staring? Like, what?
Why would
No reaction. Everyone else was like, oh my God, he was a stranger. And Rhys was just like, hi. Like, what the fuck?
but also like I think it's weird that Feyre was just like not like Reese, how do you know her? How do you know Bryce? Like she did nothing?
That's why I was like, so Rhys wasn't asking what her name was or whatever. And also the first question, what is your name? Come on, Feyre. Yeah, weird.
Super weird.
Yeah, so then there's another when they're in the Hybern war camp, I think. And they're Feyre's talking to Rhys about the powers that were gifted to her or whatever. And Rhys says, technically that power was gifted, but you're right. We'll have to walk a fine enough line regarding how we show ourselves and spin it the right way so that they don't think it's a trap or scheme. But when it comes to you, ... Darkness blotted out the stars in his eyes, the darkness of assassins and thieves, the darkness of uncompromising death. I could have sworn the war camp shuddered at the power that rumbled awake, the wrath. Okay, but like he's telling her how to like spin shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird. And then I mentioned obviously their bargain under the mountain. Hybern stripped it away, and then he didn't have any claim to her anymore, right? I mean, technically they were mates, but are they mates even? So once their bargain tattoo was ripped away, he had her make the death pact, which I thought was strange. And then I said I want to mention Hunt's slave tattoo on his forehead and how it's funny that Rhys's bargains always include a tattoo on the skin. Like the bargain. And then when it was ripped away, he got mad and they made the death pact eventually, right? And then I said,
well, Feyre's the dummy that came up with that, right? It wasn't Rhys.
yeah, but he allowed it. He was happy to do it. And did Feyre come up with that if he's controlling her? And then I said, I want to mention the Illyrian tattoos after winning the blood right. What if Rhys, as Apollyon, did start that tradition to brand the strongest warriors as his slaves? We have to remember that Illyrians can't say no to fighting for him like Hewn City can. He still has to ask Hewn City for permission to fight in wars because it's his brother Thanatos' realm.
what? So Adis is in Bryce's living room, right? And he doesn't recognize Hunt until he like really looks at him, and then he goes, "Why do you have the slave tattoo across your forehead?" Right?
I don't know if you got that far, but go ahead.
Okay. And then my thing is that it was referenced. I have to find the quote. I think that Hunt actually is like a warrior for the gods in heaven.
Yeah, he is.
No,
He's a fallen angel. The
he's a fallen.
Asteri stole him.
Okay, but
Anyway,
like,
yeah. Oh, he is. He's definitely like Thur's son, and Thur was like a god.
yes, and he knew Adis, and Adis knew Hunt. They have fought before. They know each other because they're on opposing sides. So
Yeah.
Hunt and Rhysand are going to be the ones fighting because they're on opposing sides. That's my guess.
Did you get to the part where it wasn't actually Adis?
No,
Sorry.
no, it's okay.
It was not Adis. It was Rigelis pretending to be Adis.
When really like the entire time?
The whole living room scene when he's a cat.
He was?
Mm-hmm.
So she never spoke with Adis.
No, not in that scene. She didn't. Nope. Not since Crescent City 1.
Good to know.
My eyes are like literally so watery right now for no fucking reason. I'm sorry. I have allergies and I didn't take my allergy meds
You're
today.
okay. Don't even worry about it.
I'm not crying, I swear. Oh my god, Adis. No. But yeah. So we know that Rigelis can shapeshift. Even though he's like in a stolen body, which is weird.
That's really weird that he can shapeshift into someone else.
Yeah, basically he did that to because remember how the Asteri told him to lay low?
Yeah.
He did it to make sure that they were acting up so that they could get them.
He did do it to make sure they were acting up. Oh, that's tricky.
Yeah.
That is very tricky. So no matter
So
what,
somehow he got wind that Bryce was in cahoots with Adis, or talking or friendly to Adis, and how he knew how to show up as a cat, like that was kind of clever because he couldn't look like him.
Very clever.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned because who would have told him what they were doing? So there's like a spy in their midst. Is that right?
Yes, I didn't get that far.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't want to really spoil it for you.
Okay, I'm gonna read more of it tonight.
I don't know if it's the same spy that told them about Adis. I don't know. But someone who is very nice becomes very not nice, and I get very mad.
Wait, so we find out who the spy is?
Mm-hmm. Toward the end. Because I skipped whatever when I was doing research. So anyways, back to Rhys being Apollyon again.
Tell me about Apollyon.
So what do you think about my like slave tattoo idea?
I actually love it. And but that would mean that the Asteri are working for Rhysand, right?
No, because it's the Princes of Hell versus the Asteri.
I know, but
so wouldn't that be why he's been collecting the strongest Illyrian warriors?
I mean, it does say that he's like readying his army or whatever.
And if the Illyrians were bred, like Hunt, to be brute killing machines without their siphons, I mean, yeah.
Oh boy, that's
But
all
yeah,
I
he was so slick. Rhys was so slick with that explanation when Nesta was like, "You're their High Lord. You can just make Hewn City fight." And he's like, "Well, we have different protocols because of this, that, and the next thing." And I was like, "Bitch, no, you can't because your brother rules Hewn City." Even though you're like the king, you still have to ask your brother permission. Okay, just say it.
And it would also explain why, yeah, like why certain areas haven't changed, why certain areas have changed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I wonder what that means for Moore's truth power, because I wonder if he, like, fucked with her too. Because remember, he, like, says all of these, like, random, like, tidbits, like, "Oh, when me and Moore were little, we would, like, slide down the hall of the library," or, "I convinced my father to take in Moore because she wasn't comfortable in Hewn City." Like, hmm,
Huh.
why would your father listen to you, first of all? He he already said, like, "Oh, my father didn't care if his cousins used their children for breeding stock." So
Oh
his
my God.
father didn't give a shit about Moore.
No,
So
no,
why would his
clearly
father, like, be like, "Okay, we'll take in another child. I hate the 4 that I have already, but I'll take in another one."
I
And another girl, too. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, like, his excuses don't make sense.
no, they don't make sense, do
Context.
they?
It's so weird.
But I will tell you, based off SJM's interview from the other night, where she was like, "Oh, my Rhysand," did you see her say that? Like she was like gloating about him. I mean, I will be impressed and understand all of the hype if this is the
Well, so she could do a thing where the princes of hell are the good guys and the Asteri are the bad guys.
it's like an inverted, yeah. I think in Miriam, you, me, and Miriam were talking about that. It's like an
Yeah,
inverted hell type thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
The devil you
Poss-
know is better than the
possible.
devil you don't.
I know, possible. Oh wait, keep reading your points off because
So,
I want to hear
yeah.
them.
So my next point was when Feyre went into the Weavers to retrieve the ring. I can't fucking talk tonight.
Sorry, I'm being harassed by my husband too, so don't worry. Can you leave
We're a
us alone
mess
right now?
tonight. It's fine. We've turned into a comedy podcast. It's okay.
Apparently, we're talking some serious shit right now. Okay, get out.
It's so serious right now.
I know.
Okay. When Rhys made Feyre go into the Weavers to retrieve his quote unquote mother's ring, he stayed in the trees. He was like, I ain't going anywhere fucking close to there. Right? So, how did he make the bargain with the Weaver to fight in the war then?
Huh.
I said, how did Rhys not get eaten by the Weaver when he went to make her the bargain to fight in the Hybern War? He just sauntered in and asked her.
That's a good question.
And then I put, would Hell technically, or would the King of Hell technically have reign over the last death gods that were confined and trapped to their spaces anyway? And therefore, this bargain would give her an out, which it kind of did.
It did.
And then Hybern killed her. So that's why I think Hybern slash Underking is working for the Asteri. We know the Underking is working for the Asteri. So if Rhys was a Prince of Hell and Hybern was from the Asteri, they would be on opposing sides.
They would be. They would be. That does make sense.
So the
It's
Weaver,
funny
yeah.
that they would twist it as the humans, the whole human slave fight, right?
Yeah.
But we know that is it the Thunderbirds come from the
Yeah.
human line only?
Yeah. Yeah, the Thunderbirds.
Or is it a Firebird? Thunder or Fire?
Thunderbird in Crescent City, yeah. So I think it would be kind of hilarious if Jurian is just like, surprise bitches, I do have magic. Like, can you imagine?
Okay.
He resurrected me and I got all my powers back, and I've just been hiding it from you shitheads like this whole time.
So the whole Jurian thing, that's a whole other thing that we need to talk about. I love it because like fucking Jurian was like an eye ring for like 500 plus years.
But he does. I just read this. I wish sometimes I like read things, then I go to the things that I'm actually looking for. But I read this earlier and I didn't save it. But Rhys was talking about I think it was in the Hybern scene where he's like, I was in that ring for 500 years. I saw everything you did, everything you talked about, like everything. Do you know what it's like not to ever like feel or eat or even breathe for 500 years and have it and being forced to stay awake 24/7 to watch everything that happened?
Oh my
And I
God.
think this is exactly why, as I said before, why Reese sees Jurian as the bone carver. Because it's your
Well,
weaknesses. Jurian knows everything. He knows everything about what happened under the mountain. He's
well,
just keeping it in his little pocket for the perfect time.
I know that you're right because I'm concerned because nothing came of that.
He's like,
Jurian
oh, I
is
hate you, I hate you, I hate you. And then he's like, but I also hate Tamlin. Like, what?
here's what I think is gonna happen, and this is what I think. I think Jurian is gonna tell Feyre that Rhysand is the king of hell, and Feyre's gonna lose her shit and be like,
I'm
"You."
waiting for Feyre to lose her shit on him for something.
If she does
Anything.
that, like you
Please.
lied to me. But here's the thing that's gonna suck is I don't think that she would ever break Feyre and Rhysand up.
But there's also the thing with like I don't match at all. That was embarrassing. But anyways, there's also that thing where she gets mad at him for was it the so she gets mad at him for the adder when he uses her as bait. She's like, never do
Yeah.
that again, whatever. But she's like, what was the one thing I asked of you? The one thing I asked of you was to never lie to me. So, well, this
Juri's
whole
gonna be
life
like,
is a lie.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
It
There's
just
a part of me that like wants that to happen, and there's a part of me that absolutely does not want that to happen.
but at the same time, like, who is I know that the Archerons kind of descend from that Fey female, right? Like the Luna that we've guessed, but like why did he want Feyre so bad that he had to like sabotage Tamlin? He had to put the tattoo on her hand. Like what was that? Like what is that about? Why did it have to be her?
That's what I keep thinking because honestly, she's no nothing before.
Because she's nothing
I
special. Unless, like
I,
I said, just the elementals can destroy them, basically. Like, isn't that why Adis wants to be buddy-buddy with Bryce? And why actually Rigelis is the one to say to their face, the first Starborn Queen, Thea, trusted a prince of hell, and it was her downfall. So,
and it was her downfall. He says that.
mhm.
Oh,
So we know that it's Princes of Hell versus Asteri.
it
But it
has to be.
all depends on who Bryce trusts more, which isn't the Asteri now because they don't seem very trustworthy. But I will say that one sentence seemed pretty damn trustworthy.
What that?
You
What
mix
he's
lies with truth. That's the thing. You got to mix lies with truth. And I think that was an absolutely truthful thing.
Wait a second though. Okay, I want you to answer for me why you think Rhys wanted Feyre.
I think that he knew she had a similar power to Thea.
Well, Bryce and Feyre have the same scent, similar scents too. They
It's
both smell.
Starborn power. It's definitely Starborn
They,
power. It has
they
to be.
smell
Because
of
I know
lilac.
where we were like, was it Feyre? Was it Azriel? Was it Reese? It's definitely Feyre. And I actually have a um if I can find it, I have a quote that I screenshotted earlier.
Can we talk about like how handsome Hunt is too on the cover?
Oh yeah.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, like Faye and the orange eyes. I was like, that's definitely Thur. It's Thur and Hunt. So here it is. So this is when they were consummating their bond.
In that in the globe thing? Are you talking about Bryce
in
and Hunt?
the underwater chamber. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me if this reminds you of something. which is one of our main arguments for something else. So, Bryce was flaring with light inside and out like a living beacon. She could have sworn they fell through time and space, could have sworn they tumbled toward something, but she wanted to stay here with him in this body and this place. So, like a living beacon. Isn't it Tamlin who says something like if Feyre trains her powers, she would be a beacon to Hybern?
Is that what he says?
It's something like that, yeah. Whether it's him or Lucian, someone says it because she like overhears it. But that's why he didn't want her to train. He's like, not now. Like he wanted to train after the Hybern War because he was tracking her for her maid powers. That's why he wanted her. I think he wanted her to fight the Asteri. That's why he was so after Feyre. It sent the adders after Feyre, sent the monsters after Feyre. That's why he wanted her. Because she has the same power as Bryce. And what happened one of the first times that her and Rhys had sex? Do you remember?
She lit up like that.
Like a fucking beacon. And then
She lit.
And do you remember what Rhys said about Tamlin after he got Feyre to her?
No.
He said, "Oh yeah, he would have kept you I don't know if he says like a little trophy or something because he wanted you for your power."
What?
Like he was spinning it so that Tamlin wanted her for her power. But then when they question him during the High Lords meeting, Rhys is like, and you didn't, you weren't going to tell anyone about her power or whatever. And he's like, it was nobody's business. I think he knows a lot.
You think Tamlin?
I think, well, he's a beast too, right? So I think he could scent the magic in her. And that's why he didn't want her to train it because Apollyon keeps pestering like Bryce and Hunt, train your powers, train your powers, train your powers, train your powers. I think Tamlin was like, fuck, don't train your powers. Like, wait.
Oh my god.
And I think that's also why Rhys wanted her.
Because of her power?
I think he felt it under the mountain before he fled back to whatever, and everyone else had a High Lords meeting, and he fled like a coward, as Feyre put it. I thought that was very interesting.
Huh. I'm just like,
it would make so much sense
that he wanted her for, but then you'd have to like be able to explain the mate bond that like is such a big deal, and like why Feyre not both of her sisters, like I don't know.
But again, Rhys says like the main purpose of the cauldron giving people mate bonds is to create stronger offspring. So if Feyre's the strongest female and Rhys is the strongest male, there's the bond. Like he said, like not all mate bonds work out. Like his parents, Tamlin's parents, like it's a power dynamic. And also, I say and also a lot, I realized on these videos, so that's annoying. But everyone says, not even just says, but there was a Pinterest that Sarah J. Maas had in the past. She did a whole Pinterest board for all of her series. And then when they started getting really popular, she took it all down. But very good fans took very good screenshots of these Pinterest boards. And Phazand was almost always depicted as Hades and Persephone. And who is Hades but the fucking king of the underworld who stole this bride of spring?
Yeah. I know, mic drop it, because I think you and I were talking about
Hades and Persephone.
Yeah. Yeah, but I have never actually read the Hades and Persephone star, like a long dated.
Mythology thing. Yeah, me
Yeah,
neither. There's different versions. There's all different versions.
okay, okay.
But in one of them, the obviously the mother hates Hades, so she tries to get her daughter back again and again and again and again. And like it just always fails because obviously he's like king of the underworld and everything. So I
Yeah.
wonder, I was like, is the equivalent of the mother Papa Archeron, or is it Nesta, or is it Tamlin? Like, who's trying to rescue her from Hades this whole time? Or all three of them, because like all like
Or my thing is this is the mother, literally Feyre's mother. And and that's why Tamlin was like, your mother never told you about us? Your mother. So, like, what
that's
if.
another kind of theory. Like, was the Archeron mother some sort of sister, descendant, whatever, of Thea herself? But then what would explain the grandmother being so vicious? Like the grandmother could have been Fae-ish,
Well, yeah, and
like I said.
had Fae cousins, like, across the sea that never answered their letters or what,
Yeah.
which was super interesting to me.
So there's no way she died of fucking typhus. Come on.
Now,
Off-page deaths.
there's
Off-page
something
deaths.
there for sure. And, like, I like that idea that Tamlin knows a lot more than he leads on to.
Well, also, like, Tamlin never offers up anything. Any bit of information. Not about himself, not about anyone. Like, Feyre had to, like, pound into him with questions consistently. And he was like, little colonel here, little colonel there. Okay. This, that. But, like, he would never just offer up anything. Ever. In the whole series.
And I find that one line, I know we talk about it all the time, but I still think there's a lot to it when, like, they're at the High Lords meet and Tamlin looks at Reese and he's like, I always forget. And he, like,
I always
motions at
forget what you are.
her.
What the
Like, he's not just Rhysand, the High Lord of the Night Court.
So here's another kind of crack theory, which would literally tear down everything we thought before, but just a little sort of idea. What if Rhys uses this whole mind fucking game about his supposed sister to tear down Tamlin because Tamlin's the only one who really has an idea of the truth?
Yeah. Yep. I just thought that when we were talking earlier during this podcast. I was like, that Tamlin and Rhys are two sides, literally, of the same coin.
Yeah.
No.
But see, I don't think like if the Asteri are so terrible too, like I don't think he would fight on the Asteri side either. So then he would kind of be in the middle, like I don't know. Is there a third legion of whatever? It
So
could be so it could be the Princes of Hell, the Asteri, and the Starborn,
yes.
which would
Yeah.
be Tamlin, Lucian, Thesan, Helion, basically almost all the High Lords except Rhys, right? That could be why he wanted Feyre.
Yep.
Feyre. Fucking, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Because who's gonna win? Out of those three most powerful fucking groups, like honestly, who's gonna win?
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting about that? She does everything in threes.
I know she does. I noticed that. I don't know what the three thing is. Like, someone had said something like it was a religious reference, father. Have you seen
Yeah.
that, father or whatever?
Well,
I don't
yeah,
know.
like
But that would be crazy. and I think that Rhys hates and goes after Tamlin so much because Tamlin would be the most powerful. That's
against
Tamlin.
him.
That's Tamlin's
And
world.
Lucian. And Lucian.
Prythian is Tamlin's world. Rhys is invading it. I'm convinced he's like the invader.
Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of convinced that Rhys was in on the Amarantha thing. Because again, it It was all of the courts except his, and the only part of his court that was allowed under the mountain was Hewn City, which is technically hell. So I don't know if he was like not in on it with her, but I think he knew what she was, and I think she knew what he was, and I think taking a Prince of Hell as her like worker,
That's
because
what
again, Hybern and Amarantha would have been working for the Asteri. Rhys would have been a Prince of Hell, and they're on opposing sides.
okay. If you say it like that, it makes a lot of sense.
And again, like the whole thing about how we explained like why she would have wanted Tamlin because he was Starborn. Maybe she intended to use Tamlin to destroy Rhys and his court.
But what would that make Amarantha then? What was she?
Like
We don't
like
know.
Hybern, like a not relative maybe of the well, the
Yeah.
Daglin are the siblings of the Asteri. So Hybern and Amarantha could have been Daglin because technically they would have been underneath them anyway. But
So
same
also,
thing.
okay, back to that Norse mythology thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's Midgard. Well, no, because that doesn't take. That would be four planets instead of three. Because I was gonna say there's like Midgard, and then there's Hell, and then there's Prithian, right? But then
Well,
that
there's
doesn't
we
make.
know that there's 7 planets.
Okay, okay.
Because remember 7777, the holy number. There's 7 planets around the orrery, the space map. I'm just gonna call it space map like Bryce calls it.
Better.
Um, so who who drew the space map on Tamlin's like the mural? Like it's still weird, but yeah. But it would make sense that Hybern and Amarantha were working for the Asteri because the whole, or Daglin, based off the Asteri, working for the Asteri, because when Rhys told them about the Daglin and like Theon and all of that stuff, he said that Theon slayed them because they were like drinking the magic from the lands and the people, right? And
Right.
that's what Hybern did with like the amethyst light, like he was drinking it in and then giving it to his commanders to try to win the war, right? And
So how?
he was only killed because it was Truth Teller, the sword and the knife. Gwydion. Gwydion defeated the Daglin way back when. So Truth Teller was the only thing that could have defeated him as a Daglin. Which is why I think that Amarantha was killed with Narvin.
Totally, totally. So then, are you saying that that would explain why Amarantha enslaved all of the seven courts beneath her, and then she brought all of the Fae under the mountain, and they were eating each other in the camps because they were killing each other, and she could get their energy from that?
Yeah, and she used the spell to take away all their magic into herself. It only returned when she was killed. Hmm.
What the
They're
heck?
totally Daglin. They're totally Daglin, the
They're
siblings of the
totally
Asteri.
tackling. Why did Tamlin allow them before he drank the juice to stay or have positions of power or right?
Well, they
Because
were still
Tamlin,
more powerful than the High Fae, and he couldn't really go up against them by himself anyway. So,
what if like Tamlin, this is a really crazy theory. What if like way back when Tamlin basically asked Rhys to come from hell to help him try to overthrow the Dag? I mean, that's crazy, right? But like,
oh no. So, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that the rest of the Daglin are the ones clawing under the prison,
I wouldn't be surprised.
or the ones that he didn't slay, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Well, it's key to Rhys's blood, which I think is really interesting.
Right?
Only your blood? Like
Only
what?
your blood. And if Adis and Thea were the ones ruling from there, I mean,
He's
Thea and Fiona, I guess, before she betrayed him. But yeah.
but what would
So so here's the thing.
yeah,
If Rhys is Adis's brother, what if Tamlin descends from Theon?
that's what I was thinking. Yep. Yep.
Thea betrayed him for the Prince of Hell, therefore basically giving her Starborn power over to the princes until Peleus killed her. And then Apollyon, Rhys, killed Peleus back. Poor Adis, my brother. Like you're doing that out of the goodness of your heart. Come on, you
Yeah.
wanted the power. Um, Probably thinking that it would go to him, but it went back to the cauldron or wherever it goes. And then a little bit is in each High Lord.
Yeah.
And then when they gave that little thing, Feyre got a bunch of Starborn power. And then Nesta and Elaine, when they went in the cauldron, they got some sort of witch Thea centric powers.
Yeah.
I mean, Nesta's bargain tattoo was the 8-pointed star, which I thought was interesting.
Hmm.
I think that might connect her to Bryce, but she doesn't have it anymore, obviously, which sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Interesting. I'm curious how I think that you hit the nail on the head with Tamlin and Theon being possible relatives.
It's I swear she could have made this so fucking good. I feel like we're gonna be so disappointed because it's just gonna be a normal ass war.
I was gonna say you and I. Okay.
Basic fucking war, intergalactic, whatever, and everyone's just gonna go home at the end of the day. We're gonna be so disappointed.
Okay, Melanie, listen to me right now. If that's the case, okay, if that's the case,
We're
you and I
smarter. We're better at this. Anyway,
you and I are gonna write our own fucking trilogy, okay? And in that trilogy, we're gonna redo this shit all over again.
we're gonna redo the last 2 books. But yeah, so like where do you think the gods come into play though?
So I think
Like you said, I think the gods created the angels.
okay.
I think
yeah.
the Asteri defeated most of the gods.
Yeah.
And then the angels were obviously taken slaves by the Asteri, right? Basically
Right.
how that happened. I have a thing. I should get back to my paper because I have so much. But so like going with like the whole angel demon thing.
Yeah.
So we know from Bryce that the Illyrian wings are demon wings. So like I said, I think they were bred in the cauldron by the princes of hell.
I have a
As
quote
one of
after
them.
you go on.
And then I said I believe that the worse species that an angel is crossbred with, the darker the wings. So
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
Can I just insert a quote real quick about Rhysand?
Yeah, go
That
ahead.
goes along. Okay, hold on. I don't know if you can. I just want to read this to you, and I want to see if you think that this somehow ties in. Wait. Where did it go? Where did you go? I am the Dark Lord who stole away the Bride of the Spring. I am a demon and a nightmare, and I will meet a bad end.
Foreshadowing. Foreshadowing. I couldn't find that. I was trying to find that all fucking day and I couldn't find it. I'm so glad you brought it up.
A demon? He fucking says. He says it.
Outwardly saying this shit and they're like, oh, Rhys.
Yeah, I literally when I read it, I was like, God, he's so melodramatic. Like
King
he's
of Hell.
he's so ridiculous. No, he's telling people I'm a demon.
I'm a
I'm a
demon.
night.
I'm a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I said black and gray angel wings are angels and archangels who have been crossbred. The harpy has black talons on her fingertips at will, sort of like Reese, demon, but also black wings. She has a tall, wiry body with big black eyes, so my guess is that she would be an angel crossed with a wraith. Wraiths are considered lesser fae and could be a species of demon from the princes of hell, and they are low-born species. So uh yeah, they're another type of demon, so they would have like black wings because it's an angel crossbred with a demon species, demon species. And the way that they talk about the wraiths in ACOTAR, like everyone just fucking hates the wraiths.
They hate
They
them.
hate the wraiths.
They fucking hate them.
So like a harpy, she's definitely a wraith mixed with angel, so she has black wings. And then I said, we know that Reese is a high fae crossed with an Illyrian, which is a type of demon. If what we know about purebred demons is true, how they are said to be bred for their pure killing power, hence the need for siphons so they can function as normal people. And then I noted that Baxian's wings are gray because he's an angel crossbred with a wolf, who isn't as demonic. They're more normal, kind of like the Fae. Hunt's wings are gray because, as far as we can guess, he is an angel crossbred with a Fae god.
Yeah.
His are also gray.
Yeah.
And I said white wings, as we know from Hunt, are purebred angels like Pollux and the Peregrines in ACOTAR Dawncourt, and the Seraphim, which are Dracon's Legion. So yeah, I think the worst thing an angel is crossbred with, the darker the wings.
Huh. Interesting. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Listen, I don't know how many times.
Sit.
Okay, I don't know how many times I'm gonna say this to you. Cassian's not gonna die. And you want to know what?
Hey,
Now,
according to the poll I did on Instagram, 60 something percent, 68% of people thought it was going to be Cassian. And I put 4 different options, okay? So
okay, here's what we need to do. We need to plan out our Cassian fight video because I'm coming after you. I'm gonna list
do
out
it.
all my points.
I have all the quotes.
I'm gonna
all the quotes.
do all the quotes. I'm gonna have 10 pages and I'm gonna come back to you and be like, you got 3 shitty quotes and I got 10 pages.
Dude, all you have to do is look up death on the Kindle app, and like 90% of them are in sentences with Cassian.
Well, I laugh because in the interview that you and I watched a couple nights ago, you know, SJM, like, because you know how like they were kind of making fun of her fans for being like, it's not like I think of this and like, I'm gonna do a real doozy on you guys.
I know. I was like, uh-huh.
And I couldn't help but think like, are you serious? Of course you think that way. Of course you do. Right? Like, don't you think that?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely.
She's totally gonna throw us through a doozy, you know?
Well, so the Gorsian bullets are the
Baby.
are the Hybern stones. I have a quote here. It says they were all like the adder, all long-limbed, gray-skinned, and serpentine snouts and razor-sharp teeth. Obviously, another creature from hell. As the legion of its ilk punched through Cassian's shield as if it were a cobweb. I beheld on their spindly gray arms gauntlets of that bluish stone I'd seen on Reese, glimmering in the sun, stone that broke and repelled magic straight from the unholy trove of the king of Hybern. His shield was a cobweb. To those.
No, it's not going to happen. They're going to have babies and he's going to live a long, happy life.
Where Lucian stood back against a tree, twin bands of blue stone shackled around his wrists. I'd seen them before on Reese to immobilize his power. Stone hewn from Hybern's rotted land, capable of nullifying magic. Also, rotted land. Underking.
Okay. That's really great.
Back to like Hybern the Underking really quick. I put like 2 little notes here.
Yeah.
They mentioned, so the Reapers attack them, right? Like
Right.
her and Rune or whatever. And so she uses Gwydion and it kills a Reaper. And so she says, a sword that can kill the unkillable. And Rune says, how many rulers in Midgard would scheme and murder to attain it, starting with his father and ending with the Asteri? And I just put, we know that Truth Teller is the twin to Gwydion, and we have speculated that Hybern was powerful and could be the Underking, which affirms the theory that he was only killed because it was Truth Teller that killed him, a knife that can kill the unkillable, if that's what Hybern was. Asriel tells Elaine when he gives it to her that it has always struck true, always, and Asriel isn't one to exaggerate. It's just because it was Truth Teller that it was able to, like, I
Kill
don't know,
Hybern. But
kill,
I also
send him
love,
back to his realm, like in a
yeah.
regenerate, send him back to his realm. But yeah,
So I wonder if this whole thing is gonna end up being like the Fae trying to reclaim their world back. And versus, I mean, I guess that's right because the Fae scattered. That's the whole point. Is that these different species are all scattered from their home worlds because of the Asteri and potentially the princes of hell, right?
yeah,
Possibly
kind of took over.
kind of took over. I don't know. I don't know. I'm like really. I think what it's supposed to be is I don't think that Rhys and like the Illyrians are supposed to be there, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. But like you
because
said,
like he did say like Hewn City like was the Night Court. That's the
yeah.
outward appearance that he puts out there.
But I really liked when you put that quote the other day too. I can't remember when it was about the ancient High Lord who staged a coup.
Mm-hmm.
But like if that was the case, then like I said, Rhys is lying about his age.
Yeah.
Right.
It yeah. Like, cause he was like, oh, it was my ancestor. Like,
Yeah.
bullshit. It was you.
It was Rhys. And that's why like she loves SJM loves Rhys so much. And she was saying that the other night on the interview. She's like, oh my Rhys, because like he's like the evil guy
He's a
that like
badass, but like he would be a badass actually if this was like a real thing. But
yeah, I was gonna say if like that was him that like went against hell, I don't know. My personal opinions of him might change even more, but I don't know.
I told you I would like love him if he was a full blown villain. I
Yeah,
think that would be awesome.
yeah.
You know.
I
Um,
mean,
Here
yeah.
it is. I found it. There was a time when the Night Court was a court of nightmares and was ruled from Hewn City, long ago. But an ancient High Lord had a different vision, and rather than allowing the world to see his territory vulnerable at the time of change, so
Mm,
15,000 years ago,
time of change.
he sealed the borders and staged a coup, eliminating the worst of the courtiers and predators, building Valaris for the Dreamers, establishing trade and peace. And then oh, this is what I really, really wanted to bring up. I'm so glad you brought this because this is right after. I remembered. His eyes blazed as if he could peer all the way back in time to see it. With those remarkable gifts of his, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yes.
To, pres
Yes.
to preserve it, Rhys continued, he kept it a secret, and so did his offspring and their offspring. There are many spells on the city itself, laid by him and his heirs, that make those who trade here unable to spill our secrets, and grant them adept skills at lying in order to keep the origin of their goods, their ships, hidden from the rest of the world. Rumor has it that that ancient High Lord cast his very life's blood upon the stones and river to keep that spell eternal. But along the way, despite his best intentions, darkness grew again, not as bad as it had once been, but bad enough that there is a permanent divide within my court. We allow the world to see the other half to fear them, so that they might never guess this place thrives here. And so we allow the Court of Nightmares to continue blind to Valaris's existence because we know that without them, there are some courts and kingdoms that might strike us and invade our borders to discover that the many, many secrets we've kept from the other High Lords and courts these millennia.
What does that sound like to you?
Feyre goes, so truly none of the others know in other courts, not a soul. You will not find it on a single map or mentioned in a book beyond those written here. Perhaps it is our loss to be so contained and isolated, but my people do not seem to be suffering much for it.
I'm telling you, she's either a genius.
And if say his father existed and his grandfather existed, he would still be passed down as the king of hell, right? And like with his where the fuck? Ugh, where is it? Like if his mom was a mystic and he also got those powers, he peered back as if he could look back
see
in
it.
time to it. And there's another one. There's another one really, really, really quick. So then it skips to Akaphas, right? And he's talking to Cassian. And I put this on my Instagram the other day. And he was just remembering how like they gave Cassian his first gift when he first came, and his mom was all happy and had tears in her eyes or whatever, which his mom is chaotic. I don't believe she would be crying, but
Totally chaotic. Oh yeah, he's awake. He's
so
awake.
Rhys goes, I want to jump ahead to next week. And Cassian says, sure, that power of yours can't do it with you. Do it for you. I leveled a dry look at him. Cassian just gave me a cocky grin back. I never stopped being grateful for them, my friends, my family, who looked at that power of mine and didn't balk, did not become scented with fear. Yes, I could scare the shit out of them sometimes, but we all did that to each other.
I think
He's looking back and he wants to jump forward. Interesting.
Very interesting. Mic drop. Mic drop on
that whole I didn't read, so like you highlighted some of that quote, but I didn't read past it until like now, and holy shit, the many, many secrets and all these groups of people that want to get into our borders. Like, he knows.
He knows.
Since Aftermath, probably since ACOTAR. And that means he definitely knew Amarantha was a Daglin.
Yeah.
He definitely knew Hybern was a Daglin. He has to know about the Asteri.
I mean, like, is he kind of playing a game with all of us? Yeah, I think Rhys might be a little mind,
because he says like Hybern showed up one day and like killed everyone on the island and like took over, so he has to know that he was sent by the Asteri.
The Asteri
with his general Amarantha.
Yeah.
So just interesting.
Holy shit.
Tomorrow we'll talk about like Koshi and the Astronomer and Tamlin Danica Eris things that I have written out.
Ooh, okay. Okay, that sounds good.
Let's just pick up where we left off last night. That was chaotic.
It was
on
really
both
chaotic.
ends. I couldn't speak.
Like, I said a couple of things. I just want to go on the record and say, you know, I'm really tired. I have 2 young children. I may have said a couple of things, may have dropped a couple of F-bombs that were not super professional.
We're past that. That's my vocabulary. I work with men, okay? What do you expect?
I have no excuse. I just use that word a lot.
It's every other word. I can't help it.
Yeah, you know, I just gotta get my point across.
I literally work with cops, so
yeah, and they talk that way
from me.
Yeah,
you know, my parents are cops. I work with cops. There's just F-bombs everywhere.
It's gonna rub.
Yeah. And you know, my mom has the audacity to be like, "You sound so classless." I'm like, "Okay, shut the fuck up." Because
don't fucking start with me.
Don't fucking start with me.
Yeah. Don't worry, my parents have said that to me too. They're like, do you think you need like a swear jar? And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. I know.
Yeah. So I can just spend it on books.
I was gonna say
that are smutty.
More books. Okay, also, well, okay, I don't want to waste our precious time. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Yep.
So we left off when I said that Pippa was gonna shoot Cassian.
Oh fuck. Damn it.
The bullet is on the CC3 cover.
Okay, I literally have it. Well, the CC3 cover?
The CC3 cover, it's on the CC3 cover.
Where was it? Because I didn't see it. You know what?
I
I'm even.
circled it. When I sent you that reel that said it was like a breakdown of the people in the inner circle and how like from the top to the bottom in a straight line are symbols of the inner circle. Because I forget what was on the top. I think it was like bat wings, and then it's truth teller, and then it's like something else for more. I forget. But and then at the bottom, which would only leave Cassian, is a bullet. So I'm like,
Bullshit. Bullshit. The Batwings are Cassian. The Batwings are gonna be Cassian's. Who else would they be? It's not Reese's.
it has to be Reese's because
What
Bryce points out his leathery wings.
what were all of the 8? I gotta go look at your
Reese's
reel.
slash Apollyans, at least.
I was gonna say we're either so crazy or like we just figured it all
I
out.
know.
Because I went to bed and I was like convinced. I was like, I know
So
it.
convinced.
I am so convinced he's Apollyon now. Like it makes complete sense.
I
And
know.
the ravine, we need to count how many times ravine is discussed in ACOTAR.
Oh, I did. I have it here.
Okay. I want to hear it. I want to hear all
Well,
your stuff.
it's discussed. It's like said as a word like a ton of times,
Yeah.
especially like I said with like the beasts, how they like fell
Yeah, the
into the
hellhounds.
ravine and whatever. And then I think the most times that it's brought up is during the blood rite with Rami.
Really?
Yeah, like oh they had to make it across the ravine, or Emery was drowning in the ravine, and Gwen's like we need to go over the ravine. It's like constantly. I think I said it was 7 times.
7 times it's brought up.
7 times on the blood rite. Yeah.
Okay. And I think that you said this a long time ago, so I wouldn't be surprised if your notes had this in it. But did you talk about blood right and or filling Thanatos's? Yeah, did you? Is that on this? Okay, all right, all right.
I don't know. I don't
Receipts.
know. What are you talking? Wait, Thanatos in the blood rite?
Yeah, remember? I swear you made a reel about this.
I might
About
have.
so I was reading.
Oh, about Human City being the ravine?
No, no, well that, but the blood right was basically created so that Thanatos and the other princes of hell would basically behave because they're like drinking magic and blood and souls.
I don't think that was me.
That wasn't you?
Mm-mm. That was
Okay.
not me. It was someone
Well,
though.
you
I did mention last night how I think the Illyrians go through the blood rite and get the tattoos to be like Apollyon slaves, like
I mean, I
Reese's slaves.
actually could see that. And I could see that, like you said, him creating like these warriors, like
Yeah.
readying armies for
Mm-hmm.
what's about to happen.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
So
Well,
anyway,
tell me more. Blow my mind with your theories because besides the Cassian one,
um, yeah,
I'll listen to the Cassian one if you still have to talk about it.
it's fine. So this was based off of the blood salt
Okay, let's talk about
by
blood salt.
astronomer.
I like that.
So last night we read over the quote from Reese where he was like, "The city hasn't been breached in 5,000 years, even during the height of Amarantha's dominance over Prythian. Whatever Reese had done, whatever he'd sold or bartered, blah 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 blah." Amarantha truly had not touched this place. The rest of Prythian had been shredded, then left to bleed out over the course of 50 years. And yet Valaris. My fingers curled into fists. So this is when she still didn't like him at the beginning of Akamath. I sensed something looming and gazed down the other end of the street. There, like eternal guardians of the city, towered a wall of flat-topped mountains of red stone, the same stone that had been used to build some of the structures. They curved around the northern edge of Valaris to where the river bent toward them and flowed into their shadow. To the north, different mountains surrounded the city across the river. A range of sharp peaks like fish's teeth cleaved the city's merry hills from the sea beyond. But those mountains behind me were sleeping giants, somehow alive, awake. As if in answer, that undulating, slithering power slid along my bones like a cat brushing against my legs for attention. I ignored it.
Stop it. Stop it right now. This is Akamath?
The first time he takes her into the city and he's trying to explain why he did what he did, and she hears the music.
And there's a cat at her legs, people.
Yeah, her magic slid along her bones like a cat brushing against her legs.
Hmm.
That's why I said it has to be Feyre. You know? But the other point that I wanted to make was when she said, like eternal guardians of the city towered a wall of flat top mountains of red stone, same stone that had been used to build some of the structures. And then in Crescent City, it says Bryce stiffened at the moldy, rotten earth scent that crept from the bundle as the astronomer unfolded the fabric to reveal a handful of rust-colored salt. What the fuck is that? Ethan asked. Blood salt. Bryce breathed. Blood for life, blood for death. It was summoning salt infused with the blood from a laboring mother and blood from a dying male's throat, the two great transitions of a soul in and out of this world. The blood salt has to be whatever they made those stone, like whatever the stone mountains or whatever, like the blood of people. Right?
Well, yeah, but also there's like Fae trapped in stone. What if like there's Fae trapped in
Yeah. I don't know, like eternal guardians of the city. And then like the blood salt, it says two great transitions of a soul in and out of this world. I just thought like the red mountains were weird. I was like, red
it's weird.
mountains.
And everyone talks
All
about
along the border.
eternal, but also the wording like eternal guardians.
Yeah, like eternal guardians of the city. What? Yeah.
I'm like trying to piece together.
I was like, I don't know. I equated that to the blood salt. Because
Yeah.
is it really like salt or is it grinded stone from the mountains?
Well, if it is, that'd be interesting because that's how you summon
People
them.
in and out, right? Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. And we always hear about the whispering stones and stuff like that. Like there seems to be lots of emphasis on salt
Yeah.
and stuff.
The fact
You
that her power was kind of making her see this, because it says like, I sensed something looming and gazed down the other end of the street. It has to be Adis.
It has to be. Something's looming. So I'm curious throughout the series how many times we hear like cats or like that type of like
It's just in this scene and in the library scene with Nesta.
Nesta. And I went to sleep last night thinking, not to stray from the point because we're gonna come back to what you're saying, but like also food for thought, like why is Adis lurking around Nesta in the library? Just like weird, right? What's his business with Nesta? And Gwen, which would support the evil light singer theory, in my opinion. Not that I support that because I love Gwen, but like it was like Gwen knew. Gwen like ushered Nesta away from Adis, right?
So Clotho, I think that basically stems back from Clotho because she told Feyre about the pit and then Rhys had to further explain. So I feel like Clotho's just like, yeah, like don't go near the pit. Like don't go near the lower levels, you know?
Yeah.
That's why she was like, yeah, most of us don't go near the lower levels. And then when they like went down one, she was like, shit, let's get out of here.
Get up, get up.
I honestly think Clotho's like someone. I don't know who.
Or she's Oleana, the priestess Oleana that created the sword.
Yeah, she could be Oleana. Or whoever it was that helped them. Oh yeah. Oleana,
right?
who made Gwydion, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that her name? Did I make that
Yeah,
up?
yeah. No, it is.
I don't know. We need to think about that. But anyways, tell me more about
there's a priestess Oleana in Tog.
There is?
Yeah, Miriam told me that. I was like,
Okay, so
we
need to read Tog. Like I keep saying it, but like we do.
I know.
I just don't want to.
I just don't want to either.
I
feel like it's such a chore.
I feel like it's a chore because I know all of this, like all these horrible things are gonna happen, right? Like,
I know. I already know, yeah.
And like I just emotionally don't know if I can go through it right now when like Akatar and
I
Crescent
know.
City have already just like beaten me down.
I know. Like my thing is like I just I'm just gonna be mad about Sam the whole time.
Yeah, me. That's literally, Melanie. That's the exact hang up I have. It's Sam.
I love
It's
him too much and I know that he dies and I don't want to read it and I don't want to read her falling in love with anyone else and changing her identity and I can't.
it's literally the
And then
same.
like the way that she talks to Kale reminds me of the way that Feyre talks about Tamlin and ugh,
Yep.
I
Yeah.
can't.
No, I specifically did the romantic order because I was like, I'm not gonna read Assassin's Blade. I don't want to read it. I don't want another Tamlin. Or even like just like reading how
The-
wonderful Sam is.
Did you read the theory about how they think it was Arabin that killed him, right? How they think that Arabin was actually his father?
Yeah, I read that. Which was super fucked up.
It makes
Yeah.
sense though. It made sense.
Well, I didn't read the full theory, so why did it make sense though?
Because it was something like with his mother, and his mother used to be Arabin's lover back in the day, like secret lover back in the day or something, and she was like the one person he was in love with, and then I don't know, I guess something happened, and then she had him with someone else, I guess. I don't know. But
That
everyone's like, he could have totally been Arabin's son, and Arabin fucked him over for this and that and the next thing. And I was like, oh.
that makes me so sad because I love SJM. Love her. But like
She does the
Sam
best people so dirty.
she does, why is that?
Like, what? It's like,
Why?
why? I don't
I
get it.
I feel like there has to be some like past experience of hers, right?
Yeah, some sort of trauma. Like Tamlin, Lucian, Azriel, like all the best people are literally like beaten down. And like all the worst people are propped up as heroes, and I don't understand it.
I don't understand it. Like Sam did not deserve that death at all.
It seemed kind of random to me. Like, so he just killed him to get back at Selena.
Yeah, like
What? Like,
it's just
okay, he was evil. I get it, but like, does it make sense? So,
yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and then like Danica's death, she kind of deserved it because she was like she had so many secrets. It was like I like Danica, but she was a really shitty friend to Bryce, in my opinion.
I told you, I'm literally on chapter 40 of Crescent City, and every fucking time that there's a curveball, it's fucking Danica.
Is it really?
Danica. Yeah. Danica.
I'm one chapter behind you now, and yeah, Danica was shitty, but like also like Connor's
Connor
like
was
Sam, like not as well developed, right?
Oh my God, the line that hurt me, I forget what it was like, I forget the exact quote, but when Ethan was like, when he saw Hunt follow her to the gym or whatever, and he was like, and he knew Connor wouldn't have, like Connor would have watched the Sunball game. And I was like, oh,
Yeah, I cried a little bit when I well, and then I think Ethan was like, "What would I have done?"
I
And I
know.
think Ethan said he would have followed her to the gym, right? Yeah.
That's another thing. I know we're so off topic, but that's another
Sorry.
thing. Like, just the thing with him being in love with her was so out of left field.
It was super out of left field, but I kind of loved
I Yeah, but like why? Like they're already like she's already made it. Like why now? Like
it's because but this goes along with the Sam Cortland thing, right? It's like the like Ethan, who's the most precious little cupcake, so
he's
pure
never
of
gonna
heart,
tell her. He's always gonna just suffer with it.
and it's kind of torturous sometimes as the reader
I know.
because I love Ethan. Like some people say he's boring.
Lydia did him so wrong in that scene. I'm sorry. I was like, bitch,
Yeah, she was a
shut
bitch.
your mouth.
But I loved it because I was like, holy shit, Ethan had a crush on
And Rune's just like, I'm not listening. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. Like, I am not a part of this discussion. Shadows.
There's a part of me that kind of wants Bryce to like know about Ethan's crush.
But what is
But
she
I
gonna
agree with you.
do about it? Like, it's just gonna be awkward.
I know. But it's also like I agree with you, like why SJM? Like why even
Like,
put that in?
why now?
Yeah. And how does that, I don't know, maybe it's supposed to like get us engaged more with Ethan.
It's probably honestly, I think she did it to set up his arc with his mate.
Yeah.
Like first love interest, second love interest, because she's doing that whole thing.
Yeah.
So
Even though she says she doesn't.
I know. But oh my god, yeah, that mystic is 100% his mate.
Oh, totally. She
The
and
first
I
time he met her, he was like, I don't know why I want to save her. I don't know why I'm so drawn to her. I don't know why, but I was like, what? Why? What? Why? Ethan, you're a fucking wolf.
I know.
She's a wolf.
I wonder if if there's another Crescent City book, if it would go to Ethan or Therion.
Therian, because it's House of Many Waters.
I like Therion, but he's kind of got like a little evil side to him. Like he's a little.
I don't think it's evil. I think he's just chaotic. He's like the
Okay.
heiress. So I
He's
like him, but the whole thing with me is like him and the River Queen remind me of Eris and Baron. Like he doesn't
I
want to work for him, but he's trapped. He doesn't really know what to do, so he's trying to like be the good guy, but also like she could just kill him like if he goes off of whatever, you know. So that's how
Mhm.
I kind of see him. But a lot of the Therian scenes with the River Queen, I was like,
I felt the same.
right? I was
Felt
like,
the,
I don't fucking care about this bitch.
yeah, River Queen and her daughter. They were super boring to me. I didn't realize he was engaged. Like he was engaged
He is engaged to her
to her daughter.
because they made a bargain when they were younger. That sucks. So he's
It
like,
totally.
I'm literally fucking stuck. Um, I heard that people don't like Therian because of some sort of betrayal. But I don't think it's a betrayal of the mains. I think it's more of a betrayal of like the River Queen circle. I think I don't know because I haven't read ahead that way, but I think that he's going to renounce the River Queen and go join the Ocean Queen.
I would be here for it. And
Because he was so excited. Like he was like, you can be free here, like you can talk here, like you're not walking on eggshells here.
yeah,
He was so
yeah.
impressed.
I want him to join the Ocean Queen. I would love that. And then people were saying he's actually SJM's retelling of the Little Mermaid. Everyone thinks it's Gwen,
It's
and it's
Gwen. It's
it's
Gwen.
actually people are saying it's actually
It's
Therion
not fucking Therian.
because he. Well, I'm not gonna tell you the end.
The Little Mermaid is female, not male.
I heard a spoiler, but I'm not gonna tell you. But I loved Therion's interaction with Bryce after the Mystics when like she was like, "I'm never fucking working with you ever again."
You again. I hate you. You're not my friend.
And then her features, it said like, oh, her Bryce's features softened, and he looked at her and he was like, oh, legs. It was like playing with her hair, and he's like, you're too nice to me, and I could just see it playing out.
I know.
I loved that scene.
After
like,
oh, was it Mordock? Yeah, after Mordock came up to them and they were like,
yeah. And then he was like, I'll send you some later. Don't show Athalar.
Yeah.
I
He's
do
like,
love that.
she'll never let me fondle her underwear again. Like, what?
Okay, I love that. And then like I know this is a stupid question. This is so stupid, but like, does he call her legs because he's like obsessed with her legs, or is it just like a cute pet name?
No, so in CC1, he like when he first met her, he was like, "Oh, you have some nice legs."
Is that what
So then he just kept calling her legs.
I do love him as a character. I do. It was just the River Queen. She's super boring.
But yeah. I feel like they're in there for a reason. I don't know.
The-
The daughter, I don't know. The daughter was kind of sus to me.
she's for sure gonna do something bad to Therion. She's for sure. Like
Well,
she
especially because when the River Queen is hammering that, like, oh, like, you can't, like, hurt her and she's so innocent and I was like,
yeah.
mm-hmm. Just
Yeah.
like Bryce was as innocent as a human. Okay, come on.
Yeah, like
I don't
I think
know.
we're gonna have betrayal for sure from his fiance. Like I think Therion's gonna be pain in blood personally.
Maybe. Yeah, he's pretty worried about being killed all
Yeah,
the time. He's
yeah,
like, well, if I die, at least I'll die doing this. Well, if I die, at least I'll die doing this. And I was like, can you stop thinking
yeah.
you're gonna be dead?
I know.
But anyway,
Oh, okay, back to
back
the
to the
plot.
fucking script.
Sorry, I like
No,
the script
it's
though.
fine. Um, so your call. Do you want to talk about Koshi and the astronomer, or do you want to talk about Tamlin, Danica, Jessica, Eris?
Oh shit, they're both good.
They're both-
I like it both.
Who first? Who first?
Which one's a shorter one?
They're both the same length.
I'm intrigued by the astronomer because I just read the tank scene.
Yeah.
Let's talk,
All
talk
right.
about him.
All right. So I think that Koshi's the astronomer.
All right, so this is interesting to me. Tell me why.
So we already talked about how like his floor opens to the library and all of that. So in the lore of Koshi, one of the most popular the most popular one, I guess, is that he can shape shift into anybody, anything. He can I think he has like mind powers. Um he can astral project, but they didn't call it astral projecting. He can like yeah. So even if he's bound to the lake, he could spiritually be somewhere else, right?
Okay.
Astral projection. Um so anyway, an Akatar, Koshi quotes, just an animated kernel of magic, a slithering voice drawled from the lake. 30 feet from the shore, standing atop the surface, floated a shadow. It shifted and warped, its edges fluttering, but it had the vague shape of a tall male. Who are you? Azriel demanded, but Cassian knew. Koshi. So, but again with him in the shadows and Azriel with the shadows. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Um, and then in Crescent City with the astronomer, we have a gray-robed old male stood before them, not human, but his scent declared nothing other than some sort of veneer humanoid. His heavy white beard fell to the thin band of rope that served as a belt, his wispy hair long and unbound. 4 rings of silver and gold glinted on one of his withered, spotted hands. He is 15,000 years old.
Okay, I forgot he was 15,000 years old.
Mm-hmm. And then back to Akatar. The being that stood atop the lake was a shadow. It must be a reflection, Cassian thought. Smoke and mirrors. Where's Briolin? Azriel demanded, siphons flaring like cobalt flame. I spend so many months preparing for you, Koshi crooned, and you don't even wish to speak to me. Cassian crossed his arms. Let Eris go and then we'll talk. They could make out nothing of him beyond the shadows of his form. Unless the astronomer. Yeah, astronomer is Koshi.
No, I was just thinking that. Is he doing it from Midgard or is he at okay,
With,
go on.
with help from the mystics, maybe?
Yeah.
Even Azriel's
Well,
own shadows kept tucked behind his wings. Koshi laughed and Azriel stiffened, like his shadows had murmured a warning. And then he tells Cassian to run, remember, because Briolin traps him with the crown. Um, Koshi says, tell my Vasa I'm waiting. His shadows swirled. My Vasa.
my Vasa.
Like he owns all these females, right? Like I told you
Yeah.
what Sasa said about him. The Death Lord then pointed a long-fingered hand at Briolin and Cassian, flicked his fingers once, and the world vanished, spinning into blackness and wind. He winnowed them through shadows the same way that Azrael winnows through shadows.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, because I read a quote earlier when Azrael winnows, I think it was Feyre. Yeah, Azrael winnows Feyre, and she's like, we turned into blackness and wind or something. So I was like, but he can literally just be like, winnow people. That's why I'm
That's
like,
amazing.
yeah, yeah, it's weird. So then back to Crescent City. 3 mystics slept submerged in the greenish, cloudy water, breathing masks strapped to their faces. Ugh. Their white shifts floated around them, doing little to hide the skeletal bodies beneath. One male, one female, one both. That was how it always was, how it always had been. Perfect balance. And then the old male replied, utterly unfazed, "Some people call me the astronomer." Bryce couldn't keep the bite from her voice. "What do other people call you?" The astronomer didn't answer.
Love that. I love that. Bryce, I freaking love her.
Yeah,
Bryce.
she just gives no shits.
And what do other, she doesn't even care yet. What do other people call you? She calls that shit out.
He just
She's
doesn't
awesome.
answer.
I know.
Busies himself with the little knobs and shit.
Yep.
The female mystic twitched, dark hair floating around her in the suspension pool, black tendrils among the red salt. Like black tendrils of shadow? Mm, yeah. Before Bryce could respond, the floor below slid away. I told you this one, the one about the library. Um, and then yeah, I think I don't know. I think Koshi and Thanatos do know each other, and that was an act, like Sasa said.
So I actually thought about what you said a lot last night and the things that were used to guide the astronomer's way into how
Orrery, yeah.
I think that they do know each other, but I don't know why he would be acting. Like, what is it not to show your hand to Bryce, Ethan, and Therion? It must be.
Probably. But then there's another weird thing because Koshi seems not obsessed with Eris, but
Really?
there was 2 quotes that kind of stood out to me. Or well,
Let's hear.
yeah. So, do you remember how Cassian and Azriel and Reese said that they thought that Briolin was letting Koshi use her because ultimately she would be getting what she wanted to?
Yeah, I do remember that. Sorry, guys.
So Koshi says, wait, was that? Okay. I forget who said this, but it says, oh, it was Briolin. That's what it is. It was Briolin. She says, "I had to use that brash princeling Eris to draw him in." A soft laugh. So Cassian. Eris tried to help his Eris tried to help his soldiers when they surrounded him during his hunt. Help those wretches. He rode right up to them rather than gallop away as any wise person would. They grabbed him with minimal fuss. Even those infernal hounds of his could do nothing as Koshi winnowed him away. Koshi winnowed him away? Koshi was there in the autumn court and winnowed him away?
That's little.
And also, Eris tried to help his soldiers.
Oh, poor baby. He's
Poor
just so
baby.
sweet. Secretly.
Briolin smiled at him. "I was getting worried you'd never approach. Poor Eris would have met a very sorry end if that had been the case. His fire wouldn't have withstood Koshi's lake, I don't think." Ugh!
That's not good. That's not good.
That's
Foreshadowing.
not good, and I'm freaking out.
No, that's not good. That's really problematic.
Yeah. Um, and then I have I did like categories. So then I put planets, people connected to Hell / Asteri / Daglin. As you were saying, the orrery. Runes spied their own solar system in the center of it all, 7 planets around a massive star. 7 Asteri, technically 6 now, to rule Midgard. 7 princes of hell to challenge them. 7 and 7 and 7 and 7, that unholy number. And then Bryce, this space map, it's called an orrery. This orrery, Bryce approached the astronomer's side. It's tech, not magic. He says, can it not be both?
Interesting.
That was interesting.
Hmm.
So then how does Reese have one? The Autumn King has one in his private study. The astronomer clicked his tongue. And a fine one at that, made by craftsmen in Avalon long ago. I haven't had the privilege to see it, but I hear it is as precise as mine, if not more so. And then we have that bit with Cassian. I think it's in Silver Flames. Cassian watched Rhysand carefully stir his tea. He'd seen Rhys slice up their enemies with the same cold precision that he was now using with that spoon. They sat in the High Lord's study, illuminated by the light of a green glass lamps and a heavy iron chandelier. Iron chandelier?
Interesting.
The two-level
all-
atrium occupied the northern end of the business wing, as Feyre called it. There was the main floor of the study, bedecked in the hand-knotted blue carpets that Feyre had gone to Sasir to select from its artisans, with its two sitting areas, Rhys's desk, and twin long tables near bookshelves. At the far end of the room, a little dais led to a broad-raised alcove flanked by more books. And in its center, a massive working model of their world, the stars and planets around it, and some other fancy things that had been explained to Cassian once before he deemed them boring and proceeded to ignore them completely.
I love
As of course, had been fascinated. Rhys had built the model himself centuries ago.
He built it himself, you say?
Hmm.
Mr. Rhys, I think you
Wasn't
said...
he a child centuries ago?
Yeah. He's a liar. I love Rhysand. He's a liar. He is not 530 whatever years old he says he is. Fucking liar. 15,000.
Fucking liar. There was no dad. There was no mom. So I have a little note here. I said, what if Rhysand's study wasn't actually his father's study, but his mother's study, who is a mystic? Which is why they had the orrery, which is how she knew about Feyre and her future. What if she did escape to the Crescent City world with Lauren, but the astronomer got a hold of her somehow and she was part of the other batch who died after going too far into the universe? And what if, knowing from her gifts that would happen one day, she did attach her soul to Feyre's ring? As I said yesterday.
I love it.
That makes so much sense to me.
Well, or like also I've been thinking about is Rhys seer, but or a time traveler, like at least because I think that little line there is really interesting that you brought up.
Yeah, and those two lines that I said last night, like looking into the past, jumping into the future, like what?
And like Cassian was like, "Are you sure you just don't want to skip ahead to next week?" Like,
yeah,
has he done that before?
I'm sure that power of yours can do it for you. What? That was such a random line.
Yeah.
But and then Bryce shows up to the townhouse at the end of Crescent City. It says, but this room, this house, dark oak wood floors and furniture, rich velvet fabrics, a crackling fire, books on the shelves lining one wall, a cart of liquor in crystal decanters beside the black marble fireplace. And through the archway beyond the winged mail, a foyer and a dining room. Its style could have fit in with her father's study and with Jessica's gallery.
Okay, so this is what I know that they all know each other. Like, they have all been around. Autumn King, I'm convinced, is related to Baron. Jessica, Autumn King, they were there.
Lady A,
not Baron.
Yeah. Not Baron. That's why Baron wanted her.
Yes. And it makes sense. But also, that's why Koshi would be intrigued by Eris, because if he is somehow stuck on, like, Midgard.
Exactly.
Right? Like, like, Eris's blood, like,
the Autumn King. The way that how did the astronomer know that the Autumn King had an orrery?
Yeah.
If he stays in his little bubble. and like isn't really seen by many people and doesn't really leave for much.
So here's like what's playing out in my mind is that the astronomer, the Otter King, Jessica, they were all like really good friends or something. You know what I mean? Like they know
Yeah,
shit. Like how else would he know about
it's
that
weird.
Wolverine?
It's weird. Jessica is playing some shit.
Jessica, I'm telling you, Jessica could potentially be Thea's daughter. I like would not be surprised.
The missing daughter? Yes.
That we don't know the name of that has all these like banned books in her library, but also like Jessica would potentially fit the bill, right? Because she's talking to Adis. She has a background of being a witch. Like her and
She
Adis were
doesn't
super
like the Asteri.
doesn't like the Asteri. Who's to say Adis isn't her dad and Thea was her mom, right?
Right. I know. It's weird. So
I don't know. Like I just
and the way the crap, I don't think I have it here. I think it's on my phone. I can look it up later. But when she tipped Bryce off about Danica, I was like,
yeah,
come on. And then she was like, oh, actually I might actually have it here because I did do a thing about the wolves or whatever. Oh, maybe I don't have it here, but she says I'm an enemy of the wolves or something. And I was like, why are you an enemy of the wolves? Because if Helena is the start of like the Night Court line, right? And her sister was the start of the Spring Court line, the Spring Court line is the Shifters.
I could see that. I could see it. I totally could see that.
Down the line, enemies, 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 enemies. Reese and Tamlin.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Doesn't that make so much sense?
I think it makes sense. I mean, it just like,
Mm.
and then so people were saying though that it could be like Maeve and Jessica, or maybe Maeve has another name as like Maeve slash Helena and Jessica. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
But
I think Maeve was definitely one of Reese's descendants. I mean, ancestors.
well, their
Somewhere
description
along the line.
oddly similar.
Exactly similar.
Is Maeve Reese's sister?
Oh, I would hate that because she's so evil. I mean, if Reese is a Apollyon, that would track though.
I would hate it too though, because I'm all about Lauren
I
being a
know,
sister.
I'm all about that.
I'm all about like him having this like really wonderful, sweet, precious little sister that like calls him out for being such a DOUC.
Yes, yes. Did you read chapter 2 yet?
No, I haven't read it. I was like, well, I panicked. I panicked because you were like, I'm trying to keep up with you. You know what I mean? Emily's past me. I've got to like start reading again. So I
Yeah.
did. I haven't read it yet.
Oh my God.
But I'm
The last line, you're gonna freak out.
Are you gonna make me cry?
I won't make you cry, but you're gonna be excited.
Oh, I'm so excited. Freaking love your fic. I'm like, I want to put it on my Lives book like Instagram.
Yeah.
And like
You can put any of them on there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the Akala one. I'm so behind.
Oh,
Like
I know.
and you did so good. There's so many chapters. It's just I'm like, oh God, I have to read this.
I'm glad that there's so many chapters because I have so many fics now that like I'm only updating it like maybe once every couple weeks,
Yeah.
whereas before it was like once every 4 days. So, but I have like so many fics now that I'm like I'm not abandoning it. I'm just going a little bit slower.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
You'll come back
I'm
to
always coming back. So the chapter that I have to do, or have to do, but the chapter that I'm doing now, is the tail end of the Spring Court reopening celebration, like the day of it, and I'm gonna have a fun little Tamlin and Feyre confrontation because Lucian and Elaine are mated and they went to the festival.
Good.
And so Feyre had told Asriel in a previous chapter, she's like, no, like, don't go and spy there, just leave them alone or whatever, because she wanted to go and spy on them. So now she's going to spy on them, but there's gonna be a lot of alerts when she shows up.
Is it bad that like time I think about Feyre and Tamlin, I just have such a like dislike and
It's so awful.
like I have such a bitter taste about Feyre, and I really that.
I know. And I even have her like say to herself, like, oh, well, if they question me, I can just say, like, I wanted to make sure my sister was safe in his court. Bitch. That's such a Feyre thing, though. Like,
Oh
I hate writing her, but yeah.
no, I mean, it's like a necessary part of the story. It's hard to read for me.
It's just funny because she knows at this point in the fic that he has a mate.
I love it. But would she care? Would she? She wouldn't give a crap.
Absolutely. She
No,
ruined the spring court after she convinced herself during the Hybern scene that she was so happy with Rhys and she didn't care about Tamlin. She wanted nothing to do with him. And then she goes, infiltrates, takes him down one by one, turns his people against him. Like, that's some petty ass shit.
she was so petty, and to this day, I cannot understand why that happens. Like you
And
couldn't
yeah,
leave him alone, leave or have
leave
a
him
conversation.
alone.
Right.
Just leave him alone.
He
He could
literally
have
do
gone back
it
to
like
Spring and then just said, like, I had to say that in front of the king, I'm out.
yes. She didn't have to fuck everyone up. She
No,
fucked every single
everyone.
person. And I don't get why Sarah wrote her like that. Like
But
why?
then, but then, like, the thing that you hate, like the letter thing, and I hope you're happy too, but then that rotted rage and da 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 da. But the one scene of Feyre's that I do actually really like, which I've mentioned before, is when they're fleeing Hybern and she's like, I took one look back to see if Tamlin was gonna like make it through the thing. And then she's like, he jumped farther than anyone should ever be able to jump, and he made it through. He didn't even look at me as he winnowed away. I was like,
I
why
love
the fuck would he look at you? Like, he
I
saved your life. That is enough.
I hope Tamlin I want to see him so happy. I want to see his court completely changed, and I
Yeah,
want her to be like, "Wow, I was wrong." Like I
I
just want
know.
some
Rhys too. And then
Reese, but
the part where she's running and Asriel has the shield and he like whips away like the ash arrows or whatever. And she says, I didn't look back to see if that shield also covered Tamlin.
she hates him so much.
But like I feel
Fucking
like
hate.
Asriel would cover Tamlin just because like at that time they were working together, like at that moment, you know? But
Well, you know what I also think about, and I wanted to get your opinion on this. I know we're deviating from the topic, but
yeah,
like Tamlin and Reese were kind of described as like best friends, right? Like
good friends,
more
yeah. Against their family's wishes.
against their family's wishes, but also enough to the point that like Reese gave him a bandolier of like really nice
Reese
knives.
gave him a bandolier.
Reese taught him how to make love to women or whatever.
Yeah.
Or so my thing is like, wouldn't that mean that Cassie and Asriel were like super close to Tamlin too? Because they were like brothers with Reese, and we never
That's
hear
that's the thing that I really don't get because in that whole story about their history, there is nothing about Cassian and Asriel. Like we were saying when they died that day or whatever, like where was Cassian? Where was Asriel? Why wasn't Cassian training the Illyrians? Why was Rhys doing it? Like it just makes no sense. And this would go to the fact that he's just fucking changing everyone's memories. Just
is
uh,
it's so possible, but she's so in love with him. I just don't know how that's gonna play out, you know?
but again, that could be why she had the change of personality into like deeper, darker, because she would technically be the queen of the underworld now, like Hades and Persephone, like we said last night.
That's true.
And now that they have the death pact, yeah. And the way that she reacted to him not telling her about the pregnancy, like all of it is just her slowly like getting used to him being bad, because I think he was prepping her for it, because we see what he did under the mountain, and then the Weaver, the Adder, the Book of Breathings, not realizing she was going to drown, not realizing she could have died with the Weaver, not answering her screams at the Hybern camp, the pregnancy thing. Like there's so many scenes. Even the first Hewn City scene, which everyone thinks is hot. I think it's frankly disgusting. But it's just, I think he was basically prepping her to be bad. And she is falling for it.
Why would she come here? There. Okay, come here. We're gonna have a little visitor on our mouth of hi. My other you want to say hi too? My other thing that I was thinking about though is if he's so awful, like why is she so in love with him? Like I don't understand her.
Because they're mates.
Well, I mean, Sarah. Why is Sarah so in love with Reese if he's like a horrible male? Isn't her whole thing like feminism and like I don't like bad men and we don't like abuse and we, obviously nobody likes abuse.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's super weird.
I mean, maybe she realized halfway through, like, he could make a pretty good villain.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's one little teeny tiny note that I wrote on Rune. It's literally one line.
Let's do it.
He can mist. And he doesn't know that he can mist.
Wait, when is that?
When they're fighting the Reapers.
I forgot about that.
When they're fighting the Reapers and he's unconscious. And Cormac is like, use the Star Sword. And she's like, I'm not going to take it from him or whatever. And it's like, he like grabs him and it says, another blast, a blast of pure night. One moment the Reaper stood there, the next it had vanished into nothing.
Lauren is Reese's sister. Give me a break.
Yeah.
I know we have to.
And right. I know everyone's going to be like, oh, that was Cormac winnowing him away. But no, like Cormac was grabbing for Rune and then he steals the Star Sword to give to Bryce. So like he was winnowing away Reapers at that point, but a blast of pure night is Rune.
No, that was Rune. We get these little Easter eggs, like she says.
Yeah.
And then everyone just like there's an explanation for it.
There's an explanation for it. I know.
Oh my gosh.
It's just off.
I'm being assaulted by a 1-year-old. I know. Okay.
Oh my god. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
I loved it. No, I love that Rune can miss. That's like amazing. Oh, no. It's such a good little.
It's such a good little thing.
Such a good little thing. Well, I'm really excited to talk about your other two theories to finish up. I know that we are not able to really film later on tonight.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited to talk about the Tamlin one. I'm intrigued by
Tamlin, Danica, Eris.
What an interesting little triangle of characters you've created.
And Mordok.
Ooh, I love it. Okay, well, next time we're going to talk about that then.
Yeah.
I promise. No
And
TV.
then I will also try to start preparing my Cassian video.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's
bring
do it.
It on. Bring it on.
Bring it on.
I'm ready.
But yeah, so I only have like that little part left for the
perfect.
The wolf thing.
We'll finish it. Let me know when you have time, like I said, and we'll finish that up and do our Cassian vid and
yeah.
Yeah.